1.21 gigawatts. Great God!
Shall we play a game?
Would you like a jelly baby?
Engage auto systems.
Aye. Engaged.
Clear all moorings.
Cleared, sir.
1/4 impulse power.
You know how to fly, don't you?
No. Do you?
Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
Down here, it's our time. It's our time down here.
The Force will be with you, always.
Hi, and welcome to the Geek Hangout podcast. My name is Mark, and I'm joined tonight, as always, by my very good friend and co-host, Grant. How you doing tonight, Grant? It's been too long.
I know, right? Yeah. Hey, Mark, I'm doing great. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in to episode 84 of the Geek Hangout podcast. It has been a while, but we're back. There's finally enough news accumulated for us to have a nice discussion about things. So tonight we're gonna catch up on some odds and ends news-wise. Talk about Marvel developments that actually is kind of old news now.
Yeah, and
some Star Wars stuff, which actually we'll catch up on the Bad Batch, but also we just got a trailer for the Acolyte today, which is pretty exciting.
Yeah. I mean, we're right on time for that, man.
Right, we are very timely with our Star Wars. But as always, we like to start out and catch up with each other and ask, what's been going on. What's been going on with you?
It's been a while. Like we've just been really busy, but I have been doing quite a few things. I'm going to try to keep them quick, but one of the things that I've been doing, I've been trying to I think the last episode I talked about how I bought all these Doctor Who Blu-rays, so I've been kind of working through those, watching old, classic Doctor Who, which I'm actually really enjoying. I still love that show. I don't care I don't care that it's dated. I don't care that it's cheesy. I love that show. So
that's awesome. That's good.
It is. What's funny is because there's a lot of the third Doctor, John Pertwee, and he's always been my least favorite Doctor. I don't know what it is about that. It's a time period in the 70s, which they were really cheesy, and he was sort of stuck on Earth. So
budget restraints, right? Yeah.
The music was bad. They've never been. It's all that 70s, kind of music, like old sci-fi.
Yeah.
They've never been my favorite. So there's actually quite a few of those I've never seen,
okay.
And I've heard about them and stuff, but I've never actually sat down and watched them. So now I'm kind of sitting and watching them. So that's kind of cool.
That's cool.
Yeah. So even 40 years old or however old, 60 years old, however old it is, I'm still watching stuff I haven't seen yet. So that's kind of cool. But another cool thing about Doctor Who is we got a date for the new season of Doctor Who, which is going to drop on Disney Plus. Is happening on May 10th. So, and that's really cool because the whole world gets to see it on May 10th. It's all day and date. So UK usually gets it before us, but we're all going to be able to watch it at the same time, which is I think is kind of cool.
Yeah,
so I'm excited about that.
Yeah, that's really cool. Just in terms of for we were saying, we said a little bit before the show, but spoilers in terms of you don't have to worry about spoilers, and you can actually get a genuine surprise, which is nice. I mean, that's that's it.
Yeah.
That's half the fun of watching something in real time like that. So that's good. I'm glad they, I guess by going with Disney, they were able to do day and date, and I think that's great.
Yeah, and the thing is, I think what's really cool about the new season is, and I know I've been a Doctor Who fan for a really long time. You've been sort of like a fan for a really long time, but don't get bogged down in the fact that you haven't seen all that. If you're new to Doctor Who, don't get bogged down in all the stuff. You could, I think this new season they're really trying to almost reboot it, and it's almost you probably don't need to have seen anything before, even the classic stuff, even the new stuff since 2000. I don't think you need to see any of that because they're talking about how this Doctor is going to be kind of they're trying to go a different direction because it has kind of gotten dark the last several years. Some of the Doctor's companions have died, and one of them was turned into a Cyberman, and it's kind of been like the Doctor's been kind of like, dark and kind of like gloomy and that kind of stuff. And I
Right.
think they're trying to like almost be like, no, you know what? We need to liven this up a little bit. Like that Doctor's going to have a little bit of fun. And I think you saw that even in his first episode. Like it was a little bit
Yeah.
more
Well,
fun.
they
It
had
wasn't like glum and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, even the Doctor himself, they had him at that one. What was it? He was at a club dancing.
Right. Exactly.
And it's just like, here's the Doctor. He's out having fun. And I thought that was an interesting take because I don't remember ever seeing the Doctor do that before. Like,
Right.
like
Right.
having fun. And it's unrelated, but not really. Did you see at the Oscars, Ryan Gosling performed that? It's just
I didn't
I'm-
watch it at all, but I heard about it later, so I knew he was
Okay.
in it.
right. So, what's his name? Who's the new Doctor?
Chudy Gatwa, I
Judy
think.
Gatwa. So he was there as a backup dancer and doing it because he was in the Barbie movie.
In the
as
movie,
well.
yeah.
But everyone, I saw somebody on one of the Doctor Who pages was like, "Look, the Doctor showed up here just for fun," and like it kind of like went with the whole spirit of Doctor Who, of the Doctor just out to have a good time. They're like, "Yeah, look at the Doctor just showing up here to be a backup dancer."
Yeah. So that's really cool.
I thought that was fun.
Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah.
That new season because I think it's going to be really different and kind of fun. So it's something to look forward to. So that's been going on. I've been watching a lot of stuff. So you mentioned Barbie. I finally saw the Barbie movie.
Oh, okay.
Really good. Like we sat down with my daughter and my wife watched it one night while my son was out. We had a great time. It was really good. I've been watching Masters of the Air. Have you seen that?
I was going to talk to you about that. Yeah.
Yes.
I watched it. Yeah. That was really good. Right?
I still need to see. I think I'm two. I need to see the final 2 episodes.
Oh, okay.
But man, that is great. Like I love it. I like it's. I think I like Band of Brothers better.
Yeah, me too.
But it's really good. Really, really, really good. I've always like I remember when I was younger, before I read a lot of what was actually happened. I was like, oh man, it would have been so great flying around in one of those bombers. Oh no, those guys just got butchered.
When you start to hear about what was their group name, the Bloody 100, is it what?
Yeah.
Masters of the Air is on Apple TV or Apple Plus, and once you're done the show, there's a companion documentary that goes along with it.
Oh, okay.
I think that's called the Bloody 100, but it'll probably pop up at the end of it. That's how I found it, I think.
Okay.
But anyway, I watched that too, and it just kind of put the show does a good job. But afterwards, it's like the end cap, and it kind of puts it in perspective a little bit. And they have some interviews with some of I assume they're dead by now, but they have some interviews with some of the characters, but they're real live characters that were on the show, like the guy Rosie. He's in the documentary, and I don't know if he's still living now, but when he shot, he was talking, and it was very good. It was back in the day when they did Band of Brothers. I don't know if you remember, but they had the episode, and then then they used to cut to the old guys, the real live people, and they would interview them a little bit.
Yeah.
I remember getting such a kick out of those interviews, and that's kind of what this replicated a little bit. It wasn't nearly as good as Band of Brothers in terms of that, but it's still good. It's still, it's
Yeah, that was great. I love and I think even in Band of Brothers, I think you didn't know who everybody was until the end, like the older guys, like the actual veterans, right? Like they didn't put their names until like I remember watching the whole time. I'm like, who is that guy? And then at the end, you find out who they all are.
Yes, right. Yeah.
That was it. Yeah, I think Band of Brothers. Like this is a little different. The Pacific, I felt the same way. Pacific was really good, but Band of Brothers will always be my favorite. I think you really got to know those characters really well.
Yeah,
and I just feel like, especially in the planes, they got the masks on, and and sometimes you're like, I don't even know who is that guy again? I'm trying to, it's hard to keep them straight.
Early on, it was very hard. You're like, well, I don't know who this guy is, and like you said, they have their breathing apparatus and all that, and so you're like looking at their hairline or they have a hat on, so you're kind of like, which one is this?
Yeah. But I really like Band of Brothers. I feel like you knew those guys at the end.
Yeah, they did a good. I think that was they were all. In Band of Brothers, everybody had a distinct look to them, and just when you saw one of them, you knew who it was right away. You're like, even if you didn't know the name, you're like, oh, it's that guy.
Yeah.
But it was good. It's funny. I did watch the Pacific one time, And I was thinking about it after watching this, going back and rewatching everything, because I don't remember much about the Pacific, like even the characters. I remember the overall scope and basically the Pacific War, but I don't remember much about the characters. And so I'm like, maybe I'll go back and take another look at that.
Yeah.
That was good. I mean, they were all good, and I'd love to see it, but it's just a matter of I wouldn't mind rewatching it. But
Yeah, the Pacific was a little different because it was almost like the Band of Brothers and then Masters of the Air. They're all like basically one unit, right? You know, and you're following one unit. The Pacific was more like, I think you were following 3 or 4 different guys who were not interconnected. Do you know what I'm saying? Like they sort of,
yes.
I think that's, and so it felt a little bit more disjointed, I think.
Yeah,
I mean, it's still good, but like, yeah, that was the thing, is like it was like 3 or 4 different guys in different units, and their stories didn't mesh together. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. They weren't interacting with each other.
Right.
Yeah. Now that you said, I do remember being very interested in that, though, from I remember a lot of like, they were basically the way the war was won, when they were hopping islands.
Right.
They win this island, win the next island. And I do remember that being a component of the show that, like, right, you're like, oh, now we're on this island, and you'd be like, wait, what happened? And like but it was interesting, but you're right, it was much more like this guy was on this island, this guy was on this island, so they weren't real. Yeah, that's, now that you say it, I do remember that. But I do remember being interesting though too, because I mean, who the hell knows all those islands? You know what I mean? Like, and then you're like, wait, where were they? What was going on there? And you're like, this was the bloodiest thing. And then they pull, I remember, maybe I'm misremember, but I thought they would show the map, and you're like, yeah, it's this little tiny island here.
Just these little, like big enough for an airstrip, right? And that was all.
Yeah. In the grand scheme of things, it literally meant nothing. But all these poor guys died there because they had to capture it to get to the next one. Yeah, it was very interesting.
Yeah. So I watched that. That was really good. I've been watching Fargo. Have you ever seen Fargo?
That's so funny. I watched that too.
Yeah, I've never seen it. I've never saw the movie.
Okay.
And I don't know what made me think. I was like, it was popping up on Hulu, and I was like, maybe I'll put this on, see what this is all about. And so I watched the movie first.
Okay.
And then I'm in season 3 now of Fargo. Man, that's a great show.
That's season 3 was with Ewan McGregor's in that one. Right?
Yes.
Okay. Right. Yeah. That's funny, because I watched Fargo. We didn't talk about it, and I finished it. I'm done.
Okay.
But yes, it's a great show. I love it. Every season is different, a different cast, and like nothing carries forward. Yeah, the first and second season were like kind of a little bit tied together. Yeah. But other than that, it was like really nothing else other than the location, the Fargo, and even that's not the same all the time.
Yeah.
But that's really good. The 3rd or 4th season has Chris Rock in it, and it has to deal with some like gang stuff and all.
Oh, really?
That one's I really like that one. And then the last season has John Hamm and Juno Temple from Ted Lasso.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was really good too. I really liked both of those. So yeah, so you have two good seasons coming up.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, so I'm watching that. What else? Oh, Katie made me watch Eras Tour, so I watched that.
Okay.
On Disney Plus.
I've not seen that one yet.
You know what? I was like, this is not my kind of music. It was pretty good. I mean, I have to say, it's like, I mean, it is like sort of kind of going to a concert. Like it was good.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, I don't have any problem. I mean, right. Like I said, it's not my type of music, but I can certainly sit there and enjoy someone at the top of their game.
Yeah. She's very good.
She is very good. So we're recording our thing, and out in the other room, my dog just got the zoomies, and
he's running around
the couch. If you hear zhush, now he just ran in here. Okay.
Yeah.
But yes, that was good. I know they were supposed to go over and watch it at my father-in-law's this past weekend, but with everybody being sick and stuff, it didn't happen.
Yeah. But, Katie talked me. She had to talk me into it, but I was like, all right, let's watch, because it is long. I mean, it's like 3 hours long.
Yeah. Right.
But it was good. I enjoyed it.
That's good. Yeah.
I mean, and I'm not super, like, I know some of her songs, but I certainly don't know her entire catalog. No. And it was, so I heard a lot of stuff I hadn't heard before, and it was really good.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I know from what these guys play around here and stuff. It's like, so, but I wouldn't, I don't know if I would seek it out, but if they want to put it on, sure, I'll sit there and watch it. I don't care, whatever, right?
Yeah. What else? Oh, see, the only other thing, so there was a Nintendo Direct while we've been on our little hiatus here, and one of the
Right.
things that they announced, which I think it was appropriate for us, is they're coming out like on Nintendo Switch. They're coming out with the original Star Wars Battlefront. It's like a remaster,
Oh,
not the new one
right.
that's really like graphics heavy and and not very good otherwise. But
Yeah.
but
Right.
but the original like PlayStation 2 one. And,
Nice.
and they're coming out with both of them, and
Okay.
you can play it on Nintendo Switch, and uh uh you can play. It's going to be multiplayer too, so you can play online if you want to play other
Oh,
people and
that's
stuff like
cool.
that. And like I loved those games. I used to play. I had a PS2. I used to play
Okay.
in my apartment. I used to play those games all the time. I really liked the original ones. It
Yeah.
was all these different.
I
Did
can't
you ever?
I can't remember. I remember when the newer ones came out, and I remember people referencing the older ones, but I don't know what happened because I feel like I did play a lot of Star Wars video games over the years, but I feel like there's a gap there for some reason. I don't
Yeah,
know. And I did have a PlayStation too, so maybe I did play it. I just don't remember. I can't.
they they were. It was like It's not a first person shooter. Is it a first person shooter? I think it's like a third person shooter. Like you're like running around. You can see your character, and it's
Yeah.
just a shooter. Like that's all it is. It's not. There's nothing else to it, right? Like you're just running
Okay.
around shooting, and you have to capture. Like you go to different sites, in the Star Wars universe, and you just run around and you have to like capture the base, and then you got to hold it, and
Okay.
and there's a certain time period, and like that you can play it that way, or you can play as there's like a campaign where it goes from planet to planet. And you got to try to
Oh.
capture and hold as many planets from the Empire or the Rebels as you can.
Oh.
You can
Right.
play
Right.
either side. Um, and those they were it was a great game to like hop in. You could play it for an hour. You could play it for 10 minutes.
Oh. Okay. Right.
It was a great, because it's not like you have to. It's not like a challenge thing where you got to get to a certain point before you can save and get out of there or something like that. It was just these
Just
games
jumped in,
over and
play the
over.
game. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
and it was a great
Okay.
game. So that is coming to Nintendo Switch. It's supposed to be remastered.
Okay. That's cool.
I really, really liked it. I always liked number one first because that was sort of set in the original trilogy universe. So you could go to Cloud City and
Oh.
uh,
Okay.
Endor, and you were on the Death Star, and
Oh. Right. All the original stuff.
all
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
original set. And then Battlefront 2 added prequel stuff,
Okay. Right.
and those were pretty cool. But when they added they didn't take everything from one and just add prequel stuff. They added prequel stuff and then took some stuff away.
Oh,
And
I see.
in 2 they took away. My favorite map was always Cloud City, and in 2 they took Cloud City away, and
Oh, right.
I was always bitter about that.
Bitter about.
But they added, but they added like not Coruscant, where Padme's from,
Oh, Naboo.
Naboo, which was a
Yeah.
cool map, and yeah, so I'm excited about that. That's and you can play it on Switch handheld, so I'm
Yeah,
sure
that's
it's going
pretty
to look
cool.
great. So that's coming out not sometime this year. I don't know when, but
And
anyway,
then,
I just wanted to mention it.
yeah, well, you're talking about that, and I just made me remember. I thought I read somewhere that they're remastering. There was a Star Wars game a long time ago. It was called Dark Forces, and
Yes,
that was another one where it was like a first. I think that was a first person shooter, and I remember going
yeah,
around, same type of thing. You'd
that
go around
might
and
be out already. I don't
oh, did they?
know.
I'm not. I remember seeing that somewhere that they had remastered that, or that it was going to be remastered. I don't know where it is, what platform, or anything like that. But I
Yeah,
remember being like, "Hey, I used to play that," but that was fun because you could play that as a on your computer, or I guess I did play it on my computer, but you could do it there. But then you could
yeah,
also log into servers and run around on the servers and like fight other people and do stuff there too. And I remember that
yeah,
being fun because like some guys would like make their own modded maps and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
different things, and that was always pretty cool too.
Yeah, it's
But I,
actually it's really interesting because I think most of those old Star Wars games are now on Switch,
oh, that's
right?
interesting.
Like you
Okay,
can like they came out with a Switch collection of Star Wars games not long ago.
maybe that's what
I
it was
I,
part of
I
then.
didn't pick it up. I don't think Dark Forces is in that
Oh, okay.
collection, but I didn't pick it up. But there's a bunch of old games that you can play. So a lot of old Star Wars games are on Switch now. If you ever get a hankering to play any of them,
right.
you know. So
but
good
yeah, because
stuff.
I was thinking of just I remember all like I can't blank on all the names, but there's a great one was a great spaceship game. You know, you're flying the ships around. Rebel Assault, maybe it was called.
Oh yeah, Rebel Assault.
I remember playing that. Like I think basically I think the end of that was like you got to blow up the Death Star, or maybe
That was yeah.
Yeah, but I remember playing that, and like I remember beating it and being all excited. You know, like I don't know that was I definitely played that on a.
I think you and I used to play that like when we had our apartment.
Oh, okay.
I think you would play in your room, and I'd be on my computer in my room playing that. I think I distinctly remember that because that would have been that time period. I think.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So it is pretty funny that, you know, they're going back and remastering all these old games, which is great. I think it's awesome that I mean, you know, I guess these companies, like, they don't want to invest a lot of money in new stuff that might flop. So they're like, well, just go back and remaster the old ones and save ourselves some money. But
and Switch is, if rumors are true, Switch is coming to the end of its life cycle.
Oh.
They're talking. I mean, they haven't announced anything yet, but they're talking about a new Switch, a new Nintendo console next year sometime.
Oh, okay.
And so they're, you know, development teams and stuff like that. They're all developing to the new platform. So, but they got to still pump stuff out. So they start remastering old stuff.
Okay,
you know,
that makes sense. Yeah,
because it's cheap and you know.
Yeah, that's funny.
But, yeah, interesting. Anyway, that's all I've been up to.
Oh, okay. So just for us over here, same thing. I've been just catching up on a bunch of shows. I think you listed most of the ones I was going to talk about, which is funny. There's two things I was going to mention to you. I haven't started watching it yet, but I thought of you. There's a show coming on Apple TV called Manhunt, and it's going to be about the assassination of Lincoln and tracking down John Wilkes Booth, I guess.
Yes.
Just from a historical, I think the first 3 episodes are out there. I was going to start watching it, and then I saw they were going to release it weekly, and I'm like, I'm just going to wait for it to be out there so I can just watch it, you know, all at once. Or, you know,
I think that's based on a book that I've read.
I remember at one point we talked about something, and I thought I couldn't remember if it was a book or for some reason wasn't there like a tour or something you talked about?
Yes,
down there
I went on it several years ago, and man, it was one of the coolest tours I did. We went on. My dad and I started in DC at Ford's Theater, and we did a whole tour of how the assassination played out, how Booth got out of town. And then we followed his path, you know, as much as you could. I mean, he was riding through woods and stuff, and we're driving on the road. But we followed his path into Maryland, into Virginia, where he crossed the river to get into Virginia.
Yeah,
really cool. One of the coolest tours I ever did. There's this because he broke it. Booth breaks his leg when he jumps after he kills Lincoln. He jumps out of the box and he breaks his leg when he lands on the stage.
Right.
And so he's trying to escape with this broken leg, which, as you can imagine, riding on a horse is probably not the most pleasant experience. So they stop at this house in Maryland, Dr. Mudd, and Mudd sets his leg. Right. Okay. So the house is still owned by the Mudd family.
Oh.
And it's not open to the public. You can arrange to go in. And,
I see. Right.
And we got to go in, and we got to go into the living room where.
Oh, cool.
And they supposedly they still have the couch that Booth was sat on to have his legs set. Like wow, that's really cool. Like that's history, you know.
Yeah, that's
really cool stuff. But that it's crazy because for a long time. I always believed that sort of the assassination of Lincoln was a sort of this cut and dry thing. It's not. Okay. It's and not that I don't know if I'd go so far as to say it's a conspiracy, but I would say there's way more to it than what we learned about in history.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
When we were growing up. So it should be really interesting.
Oh, good. That's cool then. Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I saw the ad for it, and I thought I remembered that you guys doing the tour that time,
Yeah.
and but then right that the trailer for it, right, it basically says what you just said. It's like you think you know the story, you don't,
Right.
it
There's
just
way more to it.
yeah. So so that's out. Like I said, the first 3 episodes are out now, and I don't know how many there's going to be, but I was going to watch them, and I'm like, you know what, I like to watch 1 or 2 a night, and just within a week or whatever, knock it out, just because I tend to forget.
Yeah. When's that start?
It's already out. The first 3 are
Oh,
out
it's
now.
already out. Okay, I'll have to check it out.
So and I think they're going to release it every. I think I don't know what day Apple TV releases their new stuff. I'm trying to remember I think Masters of the Air was coming out on Fridays because when I started watching that, I back timed it. So I'm like, oh, if I start and watch 1 or 2 a night by this Friday, it'll be the last one will be out. I can watch it in real time, so to speak. So yeah. So maybe every Friday that'll be coming out. But the first 3 are out there now. So if you want to check it out,
oh, okay, I will. Excellent. Thank you. I didn't even know it.
Yeah. The only other thing I was going to talk about is I went and I watched. So there's 2 things. There's Obi-Wan Kenobi, the Patterson cut, and then there's the Book of Boba Fett, the Patterson cut. And so this guy Patterson, he went and he took the 2 individual miniseries and independent from one another, but he cut it down into a 2.5-hour movie.
Really?
So, yeah. So, and he's got if you literally Google Kenobi Patterson cut, it comes right up. But his website, it's like he's like, look, I didn't do this I did this as an exercise. I'm not trying to make money. I'm not trying to sell.
Right.
I think that's why it's allowed to exist out there because it's just like a fan type of thing.
Right.
But so I watched him. I was like, well, let me see what this guy did because one of the things our critiques of Kenobi and Book of Boba Fett was like, well, it was a little bit too. There's a little bit too much filler in there. Like, it could have been trimmed and tidied up a little bit.
Right.
And so, I mean, I guess I didn't remember the mini series as well as I thought I did because even though it was edited down to 2.5 hours, I felt like it still covered everything from the mini series. I mean, I know it edited certain things that like they edited the chase sequence where they're chasing the little Princess Leia through the woods. Like they edited that. Because I remember people complaining like how bad it was in terms of like
it was cheesy. Yeah.
And so they cut around that and they cut around a few other things here and there and but overall I have to say I think they cut a lot of stuff out with Reva, like so, they didn't eliminate her entirely, but they cut some of her stuff out. They cut the whole thing at the end out with like her going and like trying to kill Luke for some unknown reason.
Yeah,
if you remember that. But so anyway, so they did that. And so I ended up liking it. It was good. I mean, I liked Obi-Wan the first time through, but it was just interesting to see the experiment to be like, oh, this was 2.5 hours. Now that I liked, and it was good and I enjoyed it. The Book of Boba Fett, they actually ended up adding in all his appearances. So it was like all his episodes of The Mandalorian and they put it in chronological order and put all that together. And that was, again, it was good. I don't really feel like they had to cut too much out per se. But the thing that struck me there was just how when he edited it together that way, it became very clear that it was originally going to be season 3 of The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, because like the way they had it, the way they did the Book of Boba Fett, it was basically the last 2 or 3 episodes of the shoehorned in the Mandalorian, and he kind of took over the show. And you're beginning to realize, you're like, oh, if it was cut like this movie in more chronological order, you begin to realize, like, oh, in this season, Boba Fett would have been featured, much like Bo-Katan was featured in the last season.
Right.
So that's what it just pretty much showed to me. It's like, okay, somewhere, and we're finding all this out now, but somewhere Disney was like, content. We want as much as we can for Disney Plus. So at some point they're like, we don't want season 3 of The Mandalorian right now. We want Book of Boba Fett, and then give us even more Mandalorian down the road type of thing.
Yeah.
So anyway, it just made it very clear. Like,
interesting.
If they had chopped it up and just made a traditional Mandalorian season out of it, I think a lot of us would have felt very different about Book of Boba Fett and just how we looked at it. Now, I will say this: the back end of the show, the back end of the movie, much like the back end of the show, where like Boba Fett's in the present day, like that's still a little lame Like
Yeah,
you're still,
yeah.
he's like, oh, I'm going to be the crime lord. And you're kind of like, well, I'm not really selling, like you're like this, I'm not really buying this type of thing. But
Yeah.
the other part with like the Tusken Raiders and like when they did all that chronologically, that was much better. And that was just, it played very well. I really enjoyed that part of it.
Interesting. And this is on YouTube, or is it's like he's a
No, it's his own server. So just search for either Obi-Wan Kenobi or Boba Fett, but Patterson.
Okay.
Yeah, and check it out. Especially if you ever thought about going back and watch it, because I was like, oh, maybe I'll go back and watch the series, and then I was like, I remember reading about this, and I'm like, oh, let me go back and check this out just to see. It was a neat experiment, and like I said, the Obi-Wan thing just they did tighten up Obi-Wan pretty good. I like that, but then Book of Boba Fett, they tightened it up as well, but it just you realize you're like, yeah, this was supposed to be something different,
Yeah,
it was very eye-opening. So
interesting.
But, yeah, so
good stuff.
But other than that, I was going to talk about it really quick, just a little tiny bit of news here. Instead of covering it later, we're just going to talk about it real quick. We have Ghostbusters.
Oh, right.
It's coming up this weekend. This is Ghostbusters
Frozen Empire.
Frozen Empire. Okay. So I've been seeing the trailer. They've been doing all the press for it and everything like that. I'm pretty excited for this.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
I was surprised.
I'm in.
I've never been a gigantic Ghostbusters fan, but I've always liked Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
I remember I loved the first one. The second one back in the day, I remember being like, well, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then they did the one with the ladies, which I felt was it was funny, but it didn't have enough Ghostbuster stuff in it.
Yeah.
And it kind of bothered me that it wasn't connected to the originals at all. They tried to make it its own thing. And then they did Afterlife, which had a lot of Ghostbuster stuff in it, but I didn't find it very funny.
Yeah.
And it was, I was kind of curious what they were going for. Now, this one, I feel like they kind of have everything. They kind of checked any boxes they could. So now I'm hoping that this is a nice mixture of both. I'm hoping that we get, at the end of the day, it's got to be funny,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I still want to see the ghost busting and all that stuff too. So I have high hopes for it. I mean, it looks like they have everybody back, and it looks like there's
I know, like like the villain from the very first one, it appears to be the mayor in this one.
Wait, what?
Yeah, the guy.
Oh, when you said the villain, I was picturing.
I mean, not the villain. I mean, the guy who's like the pain in the ass.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Walter Peck.
Yeah, yes.
Oh, is he the mayor in this one? I didn't know that.
Well, he's sitting in he appears to be the mayor.
Okay,
that's my guess. But he's back, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to it. I'm down. And we saw the advertisement. I think it's at Regal. They have like a popcorn bucket.
Yeah.
It looks like a trap.
Yeah, I thought that was cool.
And I'm all in on that.
Is that only at Regal, or is that?
I think it's on. Maybe it's everywhere, but the one I shared was Regal.
Okay.
So maybe it's not exclusive to them, but it's.
Now I feel like it must be Regal. I always think of what's the chain out west? It's like Alamo Draft House or something like that. Did you ever hear that?
No.
It's like I think it might only be one movie theater, but they get like exclusives there. And then I always get like, whenever I think of an exclusive, I always think of like them. But now it seems like Regal's getting in on it now, and like all these, especially with like the popcorn buckets and all that, that really seems to have taken off.
Yeah, I'm down for that. Like so if I could get to a theater this weekend to go watch that movie and get that popcorn bucket, I'm in because the thing looks pretty cool.
That does look pretty cool. I know.
So
that's for Ghostbusters. So I'll be interested to see, how that is and how that does and all that stuff. Because I mean, that's, really back in the day, it was like Star Wars and Indiana Jones, and then I mean, it was different, but it was Ghostbusters. I mean, that was that one summer. It was like everything, So
it was. They had some great. We grew up at a great time. I still say that because it was like there were a lot of great ideas, and I mean, things that like now they're franchises, but then they were just really good movies that came out.
Right.
And Ghostbusters was one of them. Back to the Future was one of them. Like they just had some Goonies. Just really good movies.
Gremlins, the first one was.
Yeah. And it's a shame. Like I always feel bad for our kids because I'm kind of like they just don't do that anymore. They don't have like original new ideas that are just
I mean, right? I mean,
brand new.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like they try and then they just flop. I mean, it's like I don't know. I mean, maybe. I mean, I guess to an extent they had all the Marvel movies, but even those characters, they're not new. Those characters have been around for forever.
Right.
That maybe they're new to them. I don't know.
Yeah. So
yeah. So,
anyway,
all right. So that wraps up Ghostbusters. And then one last thing before we get into the meat of the show is they started shooting the new Superman movie. James Gunn has been
okay.
He's in charge of all the DC movies now, and he's been posting. He literally posted on Instagram. It was just like a close-up shot of like Superman's S symbol, and he just said, "Oh, shooting starts today," and there's like some snow on it, and he's just been posting nothing. Other than that, you haven't seen Superman's costume yet. You haven't seen anything like that, but he's just been posting some cast pictures and just different things like that. But it's just kind of been fun to see the process start. And I'm, again, it's DC, so I'm cautiously optimistic. But I'm just like with James Gunn, I trust that guy. I mean, he made all those Guardians movies, and I trust him. So I'm excited to see where he's going to go with this. And
if anyone can rescue them, it's him.
Yeah, I think that's right. That's a good way to say it. So I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, we'll have to see where it goes, but again, it's cautiously optimistic.
Yeah. I hear you.
I know. So
all right.
That's it. Just want to throw that out there. So yeah, let's get into. We might as well get to the the meat of the show. Here's all right. Marvel's up first.
Yeah, and this was sort of like I guess this is the big news. Well, I don't know. It's one of the big news is things from Marvel during our hiatus, and this is the real old news because I think this came out on Valentine's Day.
Right.
But exactly. So we finally
Sorry, we're looking at for you if you're listening. We're looking at a picture on our YouTube channel. It's a drawing, but it has the cast and it says Happy Valentine's Day on it. And so that's what was announced on Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
But so I'm sorry.
So we're finally getting, we finally got an announcement about the Fantastic Four. And I'm super excited about this.
I am too. Yes.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I know, like I know people like looked at this thing and like broke down all kinds of things. What did we get? I mean, I didn't watch any of those breakdowns about this. So what do you get from this image other than it looks like they're going back in time? Is that?
Yeah. So what I gathered, and I've read a few things here and there, and I'm not, again, this is all rumor. As far as I know, Marvel hasn't released anything official, but what I'm gathering is that it's going to either start out in the 1960s or it's going to either be in another dimension. Wait, what are the multiverse? It'll be another. What am I trying? Like an alternate Earth, or
different timeline or whatever. So okay,
they might start in a different Earth that has like is kind of 1960s or something. But the gist I'm getting is whatever happens is I think we're going to see it's going to be very heavily influenced by the 60s, which is when the Fantastic Four first premiered, and I think it's going to involve with like the multiverse and incursions, and they're trying to save their world, but there's other worlds. But I don't know. That could just totally be a theory.
Okay.
But yeah, the gist I'm getting though is definitely a heavily influenced by the 1960s. Whether we are actually in the 60s or not, I'm not 100% sure. Have you read or seen anything different than that? Or
no, all I've seen is that it's the same thing as yours. That people are speculating, and I haven't seen a lot about it. I got to be honest with you. I saw that this image came out. I saw there's some discussion about it, but I didn't really delve into it very much.
Right.
People were like taking apart this image and being like, "Oh, well, this is going. This is into the furniture and is all suggestions that
they're really digging deep, right?
Yeah. And I just didn't go that deep, but I did notice that the astronaut on the wall behind isn't the Thing an astronaut originally?
Yeah, they all are.
They all are.
So,
okay.
So in their origin, they're all four of them are on a rocket and they go into outer space. and they get hit with some kind of cosmic radiation or something like that, and then they come back to Earth and then they have these superpowers.
Okay.
And so, right, the thing on the wall behind him, that's the thing, obviously, before he turns into the thing. Everybody else gets to look normal, but the thing turns into this, horrible monster type of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that should be it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I thought it was neat, the little robot there that's handing the thing a cup of tea or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So like in the 60s or 70s, they did a Fantastic Four cartoon, and they did not want to have the Human Torch there because little kids would set themselves on fire.
Oh.
So they introduced Herbie, this flying robot, instead, and he was like sort of the fourth member of the Fantastic Four.
Okay.
And so, but that's who that is there, and so I guess they're gonna have Herbie in the movie as well as as the Human Torch.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
interesting.
So that's like a little funny little
Yeah.
thing that. And I always like it when they include like the history of stuff like that. I know he's popped up in the comics here and there, but he's never been a mainstay as far as I remember anyway. Not that I've read a ton of Fantastic Four comics.
Right. Yeah, I've tried reading some of them, and especially those old ones. They're tough to get through.
Yeah.
They don't age well.
Yeah, I can't remember. I do remember reading something that was more modern, and I liked it, but I can't remember. It's been a while now, but it's been a while. But I know that they are very in terms of the MCU, but also in terms of Marvel Comics, but also in terms of the MCU, they're like a very traditional superhero team. Like, they kind of almost remind me of like Mr. Fantastic is kind of like Tony Stark-ish in that he's always looking for like new technologies and new ways to improve things, and like he's a futurist type of character, And so I was, I'm interested to see where they can go with that, because I feel like we're kind of missing that with Tony being gone in the MCU. That guy pushing the envelope type of thing. So I'll be curious to see how this plays out.
They're trying to make Bruce Banner that guy, but it's like the Wakandans are sort of like that, but it's not the same as having like Tony around.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I thought they did a really good job with Tony for as fantastic as all his stuff was. Like, it felt real to me, whereas like I feel like the Wakandans, that's almost like it's a little bit too far fetched in terms of like it's just become like magical almost. Like, I know it's technology based and all that, but it feels it's like a little bit too much. Like we just whip this stuff up out of thin air type of thing, and you're kind of like, oh, okay, I don't know. I always felt like Tony had to at least think about it and like make it happen. So so anyway, I'll be curious to see how this all pans out. But I am very excited, and they obviously announced the cast, and now, other than, I shouldn't say that, I do know the cast. I'm not familiar with the woman that's going to play.
I have the
Invisible Woman. Yeah. So Pedro Pascal is going to be Mr. Fantastic. He's great.
Yeah.
We all.
That's a good. Were you disappointed that it's not James Krasinski?
Oh, John Krasinski.
Or John Krasinski.
No, because I think after his cameo, they did a pretty good job of saying that he's not going to do that.
Yeah.
It would have been nice if he did, and I do like him, and I would have enjoyed seeing him as an actor. But Pedro Pascal's great too. I mean, my only my critique would be the guy's everywhere. He's in a lot of different shows right now, and I don't, I would still enjoy going to the theater, maybe forgetting that it's Pedro Pascal, and I hope he can convince me that he's Mr. Fantastic. You know what I mean?
It's just funny how like his career sort of took off after he got older, Yeah. And now he's the guy that takes little ones and ferries them across the universe or the zombie infested landscape,
did we talk about The Last of Us? Did you watch that?
I did. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I did too. Okay.
I liked it.
I forget. Yeah, I did too. I forget if we had talked about that, but yes, I watched it. I like that too. So, okay.
Yeah.
Now what's the Invisible Woman? What's her name? Do you know?
It's Vanessa Kirby. I'm not familiar with her at all.
I'm not either. I do remember trying to look her up, and I wasn't familiar with her. So,
So it's Pedro Pascal, Vanessa Kirby. I guess the third guy here is going to be, his name is Joseph Quinn. I assume he's going to be the Torch, right?
Yeah.
Human Torch.
He's he's from Stranger Things. He's Oh, the guy with the long hair, the rocker that dies at the end of the spoiler.
Oh, that's who it is.
Yeah, yeah. Eddie Munson, right? Was that his name?
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, okay, okay,
yeah. That's who that is. He looks very different without the hair and stuff, but that's who that is. He
okay.
became a fan favorite from Stranger Things. So, I was excited to see him. I mean, I liked him in Stranger Things, so I'm like, sure, why not?
Yeah, and
And
then
then the Thing is going to be, what's his name? Do you have that there?
Eben Moss Backrack, I think,
Okay,
is and the only thing I know him. I mean, I feel like I've seen him in other things.
right.
I know he was in Andor. He was in
Oh, that's right.
yeah, he was in the when they attacked the installation.
Yes, yeah,
The
yeah.
second,
Yeah,
the second of the three. It was like the second story in the story, like it was like the first
yes.
three and then the second three. He was in the second three.
Yeah, he was like the rebels, and they attacked the dam. That was it wasn't a dam, but
Right. It was
in real life. It was a dam, but then they got the Imperial gold and stuff underneath. He was part of that
yes,
group. Yes,
yes.
yes. Okay.
When I
Yeah.
was in Scotland, we drove right past that dam.
Oh, did you really? That's cool.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
because
really
that's
cool.
where it is. Yeah.
Yeah. I know him from I remember he was in Andor, but he's in the show called The Bear on Hulu.
Oh yes, I started watching that. I haven't finished it yet.
Okay, that's
Okay,
another really
yes.
good show. It's it's a half hour, but it's a drama. There's some funny stuff in it, but it's a serious show. It's a very well done show. But he's in there, and he's excellent in that. I mean,
Yeah, he's like the cousin or the brother or something, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
But he's really good in that. I won't spoil anything, but he has a very good character arc throughout the 2 seasons I think we've seen so far. But
Okay.
he's good. But yeah, so he's a good actor. So I'll be curious to see what he can bring to. I mean, I don't know how they're going to do the Thing. I assume it's going to be CGI, but it'll just be interesting to see what he can bring to that.
Right, because he everything he's always like everything I've seen him in. He's kind of like a surly, you know,
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see how he does the character.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to this. I mean, I forget I think this is 2025. If
Yes,
I remember right.
that's what it says. I don't think there's a date. It just says
Yeah.
2025.
But I'm looking forward to it. I think this is, I mean, the Fantastic Four is one of the cornerstones of the Marvel universe in terms of the comics. They always call Marvel's like first family and all that. So I think it's great that they're finally coming to the MCU. And I think, I don't know. I think, this has me excited. It's there's, there's characters. There are characters that I know. There are characters that I'm interested to see them brought to the big screen. I mean, they have
Yeah.
been before, but it's exciting. I'm looking forward to this.
It'll be cool to see them integrated into the MCU we know.
Yes,
that's. I mean, we've seen them before. The first movie, that first Fantastic Four movie was not bad.
No, I liked it. I remember.
Yeah.
I don't know if I ever saw the second one with the Silver Surfer. I don't know if I ever saw that one, but I remember seeing the first one. I liked it.
Yeah.
The second one, and then I did watch the more recent one they did with
Yeah.
okay.
I never saw that one. Miles Teller. Wasn't Miles Teller in it?
Yes. Yeah, he was in it. And it just wasn't it started out it started out interesting, like it started out kind of good, but then it just went off the rails. It was just it was like the first half was like a science fiction movie, and then suddenly they have superpowers, and it just didn't know which way to go is the best way to describe it.
Yeah.
So yeah, so they kind of blew it on that one.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to this. That should be fun.
yeah, I think so too. So good. That's something to look forward to.
Yeah.
And then the next thing we have here is Wolverine, or I'm sorry, Deadpool and Wolverine, which is Deadpool 3, basically.
Yeah.
And they released a trailer for this during the Super Bowl, and they released part of it. And then I said, hey, I think it encouraged you to go online and watch the whole thing. And that's what we're going to play here. But, this looks good. I mean, this just looks, I really have enjoyed the Deadpool movies. I actually want to go back and watch them again.
Yeah.
And, but they were nothing but, I mean, they're good, they're funny, and it's kind of like, I mean, they're rated R, but they're kind of like right up our alley, because I always enjoy I enjoy the superheroes, I enjoy all that stuff, but I like to laugh, I like to have a good time at the movies, and that's what these kind of remind me of, where it's like it's always fun.
Yeah. Well, and in this trailer, like, is that the TVA at the very beginning?
Yeah, that's
So
right. So
that's interesting.
Yeah, so there's like the TVA, there's their door, like so they kidnap Deadpool, and like so I guess he goes to the TVA. I mean, maybe well, it depends how they tie it in. But at the end of Deadpool 2, remember he had like Cable's wristwatch, and he was like going around and like trying to fix time.
Oh, right,
It,
right, right,
it
right.
was like an after credit scene. It was kind of a gag, but like now I'm like, oh, but maybe he was like calling her. Maybe he ended up screwing things up or something. That TVA has to come get him.
Yeah,
So
maybe he's the one that screwed you. And
yeah,
that's
right.
interesting.
I mean, he does kid around here. And he like he's watching scenes from the MCU. There, he makes
Yeah,
a reference to him being the one to save the MCU or something like that. They're hinting around that Wolverine's going to be in it, but he's going to be in it because his name's in the title.
right.
Uh, yeah, yeah, it looks good. I'm just excited for it. I mean, I'm hearing rumors that like it's going to have all kinds of cameos in it from like all kinds of various people and stuff. I mean, I don't know what's going on there, but if you noticed in the background had the 20th Century Fox logo
Yeah.
was like smashed in the background. Yeah, so like I think it's gonna be. I don't know. I'm really looking forward to it. I don't know how on earth they're gonna
I
tie
mean,
into it.
is this the scene? Oh, crap. Is that the scene from Avengers? Are they in that?
I think they might be. Now that
Okay,
you
all
say
right.
that, I think they might be right.
Like the opening scene of Age of Ultron.
Yeah, right.
That's what it looked like to me. I was like, oh my
That
God.
yeah. So that'd be pretty cool if they let him go jumping around and stuff like that. It'd be hysterical.
Yeah.
I have no idea how they're gonna like. It's Deadpool. It's silly, but then like they're trying to make it work in terms of the MCU. So I'm like, well, how are they going to make this work? Like, how is this going to happen? But I'm up for it. Even if at the end of the day, just go through and have a bunch of laughs.
Well,
I'm still down with it.
right. And and that's what like if in the end it doesn't if it's sort of comedic and they kind of make it work, that's fine. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like it's kind of like just have fun with it and try to make it make sense and have
Right.
fun with it. Like that's all we really want, right?
Right. Yeah.
It's not
You
like
know.
this is it,
No.
I don't think that if this breaks continuity, people are going to be like up in arms about it because that's kind of
No.
what.
That's his whole shtick, basically.
Right.
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 So, right. I mean, the fact that he's got the broken, 20th Century Fox logo behind him, it's,
Yeah.
You right off the bat, you're like, well, obviously, this is not taking itself very serious. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
So yeah. But I'm looking. Good.
No, go ahead.
No,
I was going to say, did you ever see? And this is kind of dumb, but this is what I kind of hope they do. So, did you ever see that cartoon? It's Phineas and Ferb,
right.
On it was on
It was on
now it's
Disney,
on Disney Plus, but before it was
yeah.
on the Disney Channel, right?
Yes, right.
And Phineas and Ferb, I loved that cartoon. I thought it was really fun. The kids really liked it. But they would do specials, and so they did a Marvel special one point, and then they did a Star Wars special.
Okay.
And I guess what they were told is you can play in the Star Wars universe. You can't change anything from the movies, but you can be in the Star Wars universe, or that was kind of their directive, right?
Okay.
So what was really cool, so they created this story with the Phineas and Ferb characters that was like happening in parallel to the original Star Wars movie.
Okay.
And it was funny as hell. Like it was really it was kind of clever, and it's a cartoon, but it was kind of clever, but I thought it was done well, and so it didn't. They'd run into some of the characters from Star Wars, but like it didn't change anything that we saw in Star Wars. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
I gotcha.
so it just sort of happened, and it was like a story underneath the story, and it was fun. It was really funny. Like I thought they did it really well. I wonder if they're going to try to do something similar here. Like if that is the Age of Ultron, if that's opening scene, like he's there. We just didn't see him.
Right. You're right.
Like this story's happening in parallel to that story. Like I thought that would be funny.
Right. Yeah, like they're like that one shot where they all come up overhead or whatever, and
Yeah.
meanwhile he's like,
Yeah.
he's like, holy crap, something like that.
Yeah. So
That could be fun. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's great they got Hugh Jackman back as Wolverine. I mean, he's always been awesome, and he's back to have some fun with it. That's great. Yeah, there's all kinds. I mean, there's rumors that just all kinds of people are coming back from any of the Marvel or the X-Men movies. Like, there's rumors that all those people are coming back, like just for either cameos or something like that. So it should be a lot of fun.
yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And
Yeah.
and given that this is the only Marvel movie also all year,
I know, right?
it's like, well, enjoy it,
Yeah, right. You're like, this is it, boys. Right?
But maybe this is what we need. Maybe we need like sort of a reset
I think that's a very
and
yeah.
take some time, focus on the things you need to focus on. Put this out, make it have her remind everybody how much fun Marvel is.
Yes. Yeah.
You
right.
know,
Yeah, right. Listen, it's like right. It's like Marvel can be a lot of fun. Don't take yourself too serious.
right, right.
Yes, it is connected. It all matters, but let's remember why we're here. We're here to have a good time.
Right.
So,
Because that's always been I feel like that's been the genius of Marvel is that they they handled the characters with care, but
right.
like they didn't take themselves too seriously. They had fun. Like it was fun for people. Like it was fun for us because we were fans, and it was fun for people who weren't fans because it was just like the movies were fun. They were fun movies to go see, and I think they've lost that a little bit.
Right.
And they need to get back there.
Yeah, I agree with that. And just right. Just yeah. It's I think a lot of it has been, I've heard a lot of people complaining like, oh, there's like too much to know or like this and that. It's like, and you're kind of like, is it really? But at the same time, I'm like, well, if you're just a casual moviegoer, you're like, well, how many movies did I miss? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
You feel like you got to keep up. So, yeah, I hopefully they can do like a little bit of a soft reset here and get people back in the groove, so to speak,
Yeah. Should we mention that Green Goblin appears to show up or not Green Goblin,
I'm not sure who you're thinking of.
the Fantastic Four guy. Iron Face. I can't think of his name.
Oh, Doctor Doom.
Doctor Doom.
Oh, right. Oh, in the trailer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's a guy in here that could maybe look like Doctor Doom, but
you didn't think it was him?
No, I don't think it is. But I mean, some other people were theorizing it could be him. I don't think they would. So in the comics, Doctor Doom is like is the Fantastic Four's like big villain, but like he's like got his own like he's kind of a very well developed villain, I guess you would say. So I think if they're gonna do Doctor Doom, I don't think they're gonna just throw him in a trailer like that. I think it's gonna be like a reveal type of thing. I think they're gonna make a big deal about it. But that being said, I don't know if he was he was in the Fantastic Four movie that we were just mentioning with Miles
Teller.
Yeah, Doctor Doom was in that movie, and I can't remember what he looked like in there. So maybe he kind of looks like that guy. I can't remember now that we're talking about it. So like I can't get
it to stop where I wanted to stop.
But it's like there. It's that one. It's right in the back of that one.
Yeah, it's just a second.
Yeah. So I mean I don't think they'll put him in there unless it's a cameo from the other version of Doom. But I don't know. I think they would stray away from that only because if they're going to bring the real Doom in at some point, I don't think they want to confuse people with like having.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So, but I could be totally wrong. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I assume at some point they're going to introduce the MCU version of Wolverine, and they have Hugh Jackman running around this movie. So who knows what they're going to do?
Have you heard the rumors? I don't know if it's a rumor or if it's just people talking online, but that it might be Daniel Radcliffe. Have you heard that?
I've heard that rumor too. I don't know where it's coming from. I mean, I've heard him being rumored to be Wolverine for a couple, for like a little while now. But I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, like it doesn't fit to me. I mean, I don't know. I would think you'd want somebody a little more bulked up, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, he'd have to be you're right. He'd have to be very right. You'd have to get very much more bulked up, and then I don't know. I mean, just from a casting standpoint, I mean, it's kind of a shame, but he's so well known as Harry Potter
Yeah.
that to cast him as Wolverine, I just not something I would do. I'll just say it that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but that might be him being like, well, I want to do something really different,
well,
and,
true,
and
right.
you know what I'm saying? Like, I got to get away from this Harry Potter stuff. I want to do something like really different.
I could totally see him wanting that. I don't
Yeah.
know if I was the casting director, though, if I would be like, yes, you're going to be our Wolverine. I don't know if I would go for that because I'd be worried. I'm like, it's like Wolverine. He's going to have to carry the X-Men movies type of thing, and I would just be worried. But you never know,
Yeah.
I mean, Marvel for the most part has done an excellent job with all their casting. So if they pick him, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt if they think he can work.
Right.
That was,
right.
Yeah, that right there was the guy that you thought looked like Doom. Yeah.
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 So.
Yeah, I don't know, but I did because at the I don't know where we are in the trailer now, but at the end of the trailer, not this part here, but at some point there's like Wolverine's he has like I don't want to say a secret identity, but I think he calls himself Patch, and he's like in a tuxedo, and I think that
Oh, really?
one scene they're kind of walking up behind somebody.
Oh, yeah. It's earlier than this. It's earlier than this.
Yeah, but people were thinking that was going to be Daniel Radcliffe, maybe as maybe a variant of Wolverine or something like that. I mean, they really could have a lot of fun with it because you figure, I mean, they've established that variants can be the same person or can be totally different person.
Right.
I mean, all the Spider-Men were all different and all that. So, I mean, they could have people just willy-nilly popping up as Wolverine, really, if they wanted to.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, and Loki too, right? I got a female Loki, got a male Loki, right? You got alligator Loki. So yeah.
Yeah, right. So so we'll have to see what they do with it. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this. When this is what May?
I think it said July.
Oh, July. Okay. Yeah. Well, I think you're right. Yes.
I don't have it handy, but I think it's July. It's like their big summer movie.
Yeah. It probably just said it there at the end of the trailer.
It probably did. Yeah. Oh, it says right here in theaters, July 26th.
Oh, there we go. Okay, good.
Yeah.
July 26th. That's interesting. It's okay.
Yeah, it's later.
Yeah, that's actually very late. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I would think for Marvel it would be May. But whatever.
Yeah, but they've got, what else have they got this year?
That's what I mean.
So it's put it out July, halfway through the year.
I know. I guess maybe Disney's got some other stuff lined up for May or something like some movies I can't think of. It's certainly not a Star Wars movie, so it must be something else from Disney. But
yeah,
interesting.
I mean, are we done with this?
Yeah.
Okay. I just FY, like I did start watching Echo. I haven't finished it yet.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, I actually saw. I think I'm 3 episodes in. I don't know how many it is.
It's only 5 or 6 episodes. It's not very long.
Yeah, and I saw the episode with the fight between her and Deadpool, or not Deadpool, Daredevil.
Daredevil. Yeah.
And that was a great fight scene. I mean, it's not that show's not terrible. I mean,
No.
it's certainly not my favorite one, but it's a good show. I mean, what I've seen so far, I like.
Yeah. My biggest issue with that was the whole like they were trying to dovetail into her heritage as being, I guess, Native American, and then they just brought up for lack of a better word, the magic.
Yeah.
And I forget where in terms of where you are, but I don't know, they kept referencing I
don't think I've gotten to that yet. To the magic stuff.
It's not truly it's not hocus pocus, but I don't know, they keep referencing her ancestors, and I think it's silly, but I think at one point her hands start to glow, or it doesn't end up being a big deal, but they make a big deal about it. And I'm like, I felt like the character just had enough going on that I'm like, what do we where's this magic stuff coming from? That's, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Between she's deaf and she has her prosthetic, and there's plenty of stuff to make the character interesting. And I just felt it was odd to sort of try to tack on the magic.
Yeah. Right.
But saying that, I'd be interested after when you finish it. Maybe I've made too big of a deal about it. You know what I mean? Maybe I was, but I guess I was coming into it thinking more of a street level character, and then they started
right.
with the magic-y stuff, or I don't know, maybe mystical is a better word for it because it's not just not magic. It's just
Yeah. I mean,
whatever.
I like what I've seen so far. I get why they did like. It's certainly not their strongest show.
Yeah, right.
It's
It's not bad. I
it's
mean,
entertaining, right? Like
yeah,
I watch it, I'm entertained. I'm not like, oh, this is the worst show ever. It's
right.
fine. I mean,
Yeah,
it's good, but I don't know that I'd ever put it on again.
right.
But
Yeah,
what I've seen so far, I think is pretty good. So
yeah, yeah. And I like Kingpin. I like
yeah,
Kingpin,
and
and
Kingpin's
yeah,
great.
yeah, he's great. So basically, I'm like, well, I'm pretty much watching the Kingpin show.
Yeah, right, right.
Because
So
I do like
I
him a lot.
still I still don't understand why. Like of all the characters in the stable,
Oh, right.
I'm not sure why they went with her, but okay. I mean, it's fine, but
Yeah. Well, that's right. I think it was like we were saying before. It's like when they were under the mandate for content. Like I think they were
yeah,
just like anybody that popped up, they're like, oh, give
yeah.
them a
Give her a
show.
show. She's got a
Right.
show.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's really what I mean. And that's they're kind of sticking with it now. I mean, they're delaying the shows and taking a little bit longer with them, or I guess in Echo's case, maybe they cut it short because it was only 5 episodes or 6 episodes.
Yeah,
But but I mean, like they're still like Agatha from WandaVision is still
right.
getting a series, and you're again, like did she really need a series? I mean, I thought the character was interesting and everything, but I'm like, it's like sort of like at this point now,
Right.
I'm
Does
like,
she need her own
yeah,
show?
yeah. I'm
Like,
like, it's like, all right, that's a leftover from the previous thing.
yeah, yeah,
Ironheart, they shoved her into Black Panther 2, and then now it's like, oh, well, her show's still out there. I don't know if I assume it's still, apparently it's shot already. So, I mean, I guess they're just holding
yeah,
on to it. I don't know what they're doing, but there's a lot of stuff like that where you're like, okay, where is this left over from? Or is this something new? And,
yeah,
yeah, just to see how they. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see how things all start to go forward from here because I feel like they've regrouped now and they're kind of getting back on track. And I mean, they learned their lesson, but also with the writer's strike and the actor's strike and all that, it kind of kind of made them
if
take a step back. Forced them to take
yeah,
a step back.
right. Because apparently they were like killing their graphics teams were.
Yeah,
I think they ended up unionizing over it
I think they did. I think you're
because
right.
they were like killing them with all the work they were
Yeah.
forced to do.
Oh, yeah. The one article I read, as a matter of fact, it was about them and that, but it was about like She-Hulk. Apparently, originally she wasn't going to turn into She-Hulk until like the
Yeah,
fifth episode or something like that, and then they scrambled at the last minute and said, "Oh no, 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 no!" And that's why a lot of it didn't look great because it was a
yeah,
last minute thing that they decided to change up like that. And I mean, no wonder it didn't look good if it was last minute. That's when you begin to realize like how much how overworked the artists were, but how like even Feige himself, just like he was on top of everything for so long, and I feel like he just got stretched too thin, and
yeah, definitely.
if they're making, especially like that's a big change to make towards the end of the
It's
series.
Yeah,
you
it's a
know
major change. Like to be like, oh yeah, she was, yeah, because I think she wasn't supposed to turn for the first time till like halfway through the show or something like that.
yeah, right.
And
And then all
then
of a sudden they're like, nope. You're like, wait, what?
yeah,
Yeah, that's crazy.
yeah. So,
So all
all
right.
right, are we ready to move on? Because I think the next thing is
Yeah.
Star Wars. I think we're
Yeah, we
done
got
with
Star
Marvel,
Wars.
right?
Yep. Yeah. So
Oh,
we got
hang on.
there we go. We got there we go. Star Wars is coming up, and we got the Bad Batch.
Yeah,
Right. So Bad Batch is, I believe we're at the halfway point,
I
if I'm not
think so.
mistaken.
There's a new episode. Like we're recording on a Tuesday, so there's a new episode coming out tomorrow.
Oh, right, yes. Okay.
Um, uh,
And yeah. So so far, what have you thought about the first half of the season then? We got a couple, got 6 episodes under our belt now. What have you thought
yeah,
so far?
I really like it. I mean, I thought it started off a little slow, like that first episode, but I think it's designed that way. Like the first episode was not the most exciting episode.
Right.
But once, I mean, spoiler alert, full spoilers here at this
Yeah.
point, But once uh, Omega and Crosshair
Right.
escape,
Yeah.
like then it picks up, and I think I love I really like this show. Like I didn't love season 2. I felt meandered a little bit,
Yeah.
but I think this season, man, they've got a great story. I think it's a really interesting story. I think what they're doing with the characters is really interesting, and I mean I like the story for itself because it's a like self-contained story, but I also like the story they're telling overall, like how the what's happening, it affects the larger Star Wars universe that we know.
Yes,
Like
yeah.
I just think they're doing a fantastic job this season with
Yeah.
this show. I mean, really, and plus, and then the animation is
Yeah.
outstanding. I mean,
Right.
really good. You know?
Yeah, I've been really impressed with the, yeah. I mean, we're watching the trailer here on YouTube, and I forgot that Ventress is supposed to show
Yeah,
up.
right. I know.
I forgot all about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the animation's been really good. The stories, like I said, I've really enjoyed it. Just from a character standpoint, everything's been great. But like I said, too, the bigger picture, I mean, they're like, suddenly Omega, her M count, is like high now. And you're like, oh, well, what does that mean? And obviously the Emperor shows up, and it's a Project Necromancer. Is that what he called it?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's like obviously the code name for like, all right, well, this is how I'm going to survive in in the future. Like, so they're kind of like, laying the groundwork for how suddenly or somehow the Emperor
The Emperor returns. Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
They're laying the groundwork for that, which is I think is great. I've seen other people being like, "Oh, they're just backpedaling, blah blah blah," but you're like, well, that's what Star Wars does. It's always filling the gaps. I mean, the whole Clone Wars cartoon series was to essentially, whether they meant to or not,
Right.
they made the prequels better.
Yeah. It really did. It really did.
So I'm all for it. I think it's great.
The Clone Wars made Anakin a way more interesting character.
Yes, I agree 100%. So I think it's great. I love it all. I mean, I've still got such a huge kick out of the fact that they're on Wayfair and Mount Tannis and all that stuff. Like, like that's just from the original Heir to the Empire books, and just like the Hound. What's the dog's name? Betcher.
So I can never tell what her accent, what exactly the name is.
I think it might be Betcher. I can't remember, but even in the old, it's totally different. But in the Heir to the Empire novels, when Luke first crashes on this planet and meets Mara Jade, I remember them fighting some kind of dog, like wolf beast type thing, and that's what I think that those dogs were a reference to.
Oh, okay.
It's silly, but it's just something that I remembered from reading the story, and I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool,
Yeah.
And, but I've really been enjoying it a lot. The episode this past week was a 2-parter, and
yes,
it had a lot to do with like Rex shows up in the clone.
Yes.
And I did feel with that one, or that double parter, I felt a little left out because I felt like I was maybe supposed to know who more of those clones were.
Yes. I think you're right. I agree.
Yeah. And I was never a huge, some of the guys, they really got into the clones and they knew all the names and all this stuff. And I'm like, do I know this guy? I'm like, is he, like they showed the one guy was Wolf and he has clone armor on, but he had like the Wolf markings on it. And I don't remember him. I remember the name Wolf, but I think it may have been from an action figure at one point. I can't remember. Yeah. So I was a little bit lost as to who he was and why he might be important. Yeah, because I feel like it was him. They did a sort of a reveal, and I'm like, who's this?
Yeah, I recognized the name, but I couldn't tell you. Like, I don't know, and it's like I think this was why, we've talked about this before, like with the Clone Wars TV series. I could never tell any of those guys apart. Like to me, they were just clones, and I could never tell one from the other.
Right.
And I mean, unless they were something they were wearing a certain kind of armor or something like that.
Unless it was Rex, I pretty much
right. I knew Rex. I think I knew Cody, which was the one that went with Obi-Wan and tried to kill Obi-Wan ultimately. I think I knew those guys, but like beyond that, I didn't really. So when he said Wolf, like, because the other thing is, like, I'm trying, because now we have like clones everywhere, right? And so I'm trying to remember, is Wolf one of the ones that we see in Rebels?
Oh, I knew Gregor was one.
Okay,
He's the guy with so the one guy in this episode has the bad eye, and I think
that's Gregor.
That's Gregor. I think
Okay.
that's who it is. So maybe Wolf was one of the other guys that shows up with Rex. I can't remember that third clone's name.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't either. But again, so like that's when I was watching. I'm like, oh wait, who is this? Am I supposed to know that? So I did feel a little bit lost there with that.
Yeah, I recognized the name, but that was
Yeah,
it. I didn't know. I couldn't tell you what he was in or why he was important. But
but you know, other than that, you know, and that's just I guess if I was a fan of all the clones, I guess I may have been very excited by that episode. But for me, I was more the other way, like, okay, you know.
Yeah, I actually wonder. There's two things I'm taking from this show, right? Like so far, I wonder if we are going to get a second Clone War, right? Like, because I feel like that's kind of what they're setting up. Like the clones are you know, like it feels like they're setting up a like clone rebellion.
Yeah, okay.
Right, against the Empire. That's to me. Now I don't know that they'll get, but like I can see Filoni going there. I can see Filoni saying, "Okay, so this is the end of the Bad Batch, and then we have a second Clone Wars show."
Oh, I see.
You know what I'm saying? So because they did say, like when Obi-Wan talks about it in the original Star Wars, he talks about the Clone Wars, not the Clone War, right?
Oh, interesting.
And so I do wonder if they're setting up like a second, like small, like probably smaller, like it's not going to be as expansive, but like almost like a clone rebellion.
You
know,
interesting. Well, that could certainly be interesting. I hadn't occurred to me. I mean, I know they're sort of setting it up here, but you're right. I guess I thought it would be resolved by the end of the series. And I never thought of it as being a possible future series, but just in terms of given the nature of Disney and the animation, there's going to be something after this. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
There, I would think anyway. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but that could be it.
Yeah, and I really like. I thought that would make a lot of sense because we know this is the last season of the. I mean, to say it right there, this is the final season of Bad Batch. Even if things go horribly wrong, I don't think they're going to wipe out the Bad Batch. We may lose a couple of them, but I don't think like the whole team is going to be gone. Right. And then you could use that to kind of like segue, and Omega. Right, because Omega is a clone. You could use that to segue into like almost like a clone rebellion, which then maybe, you know, sort of is a catalyst for the creation of the larger rebellion. You know, that we know.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
I don't know. I mean, that's I'm just thinking out loud. Right.
Yeah. Well, that could be. Yeah, that could definitely be interesting and definitely plausible. I mean. Yeah, I could see that. I mean, my biggest thing like that I get hung up on is like I'm like, all right, we're like, you know, we saw the original movies, like where were those characters at? You know what I mean? Like, and I obviously they weren't created yet. You know what I mean? So
right.
I get that part of it, but like, I don't know. I just feel like it's like you gotta. You can't have too many people left over, basically. Like, you know, if it ends up at the end of the day, if it's like Hunter and Omega are still floating around out there somewhere, that's more plausible, you know?
Yeah.
But like, you know, if you have the entire Bad Batches there still being, and you're like, well, wait, why didn't we see them? And I know why we didn't see them, but like, you know, there's like that suspension of disbelief. It's like, I don't know. You got to be more, there has to be a reason, like, you know, there has to be a reason, like where were they type of thing.
Well, you know, and that might be the reason. Like we didn't see any clones in the original trilogy. So maybe the explanation is, well, the clones were all fighting their own war. They were fighting their own like clone rebellion. And that's why they're not.
That's why they're not with the actual rebellion or something like, oh, okay, I could see something like that. Right. Huh.
Well,
Well,
I
that
don't
could
know.
be. Yeah.
And Filoni's clever enough to be able to, you know,
Yeah, he can make it
figure
work.
out a
Yeah.
way to explain that.
Yeah.
He's pretty good at that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah. So I know that was the one. That's my one thought from the show. The other thought is I mean, it seems clear like Omega's way more important than I guess I originally thought she was going to be. So
Right.
is Omega maybe tied to Rey in some fashion? Like I think in the movie, Rey's father is what, one of Palpatine's clones, right?
Right. But
But
he
is it?
is
It's like is
he's
he a
a
clone or is he like is he actually a child? Like is he actually a natural born child?
hmm,
Or is he? I thought my impression was he was sort of like cloned.
I now that we're talking about it, I don't remember. I remember somebody saying he was like a failed clone. I remember somebody saying he was a
But he did have force power.
that's what I
Like
can't remember it.
I think he was like he was. It was like they had created clones who did have force abilities,
right.
but like for whatever reason he wasn't, or it wasn't strong enough for him, or something like that.
Yeah, and I can't
But
remember. For some reason, I thought that maybe Ray's dad did not have force powers. He was like a failed clone, but her mother may have had it, and that's where
okay,
she got it. No, that doesn't make sense either. No, they kept saying that like she was the granddaughter of Palpatine, so like she's somehow tied to. So, well, yeah. So I don't know if he was a true
is it?
clone. Or,
Yeah. So my question is like, is that where this leads? Is Omega
could
like
she
somehow could she be Ray's mom
not necessarily
or
her
a grandmom or something like that?
maybe a donor of some sort along the way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so basically, right? If her genetic material is used to create Ray's father, so that could be a tie in that way
Right.
somehow. And then, but I don't know because as of jumping forward after, like during the Mandalorian, they wanted Baby Yoda, and they're still searching for stuff there. So do they not? Yeah, do they not get Omega's genetic material? Or maybe do they get it later? Like that's what I mean. Like there's a couple variables there because it's like,
Yeah.
well, they had her stuff. Why do they still need Grogu?
Well, I mean, you could, because they always said that the Grogu's was really high,
That's true too.
right?
Maybe
Like
that was it.
they're
Yeah,
saying Omega has
is
it,
right.
has an M count, but it's not. It may not be.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Right. So maybe right. So, well, by the time the Mandalorian's going on, would that failed clone, would that Palpatine's quote son or whatever, would he have been alive? Right. It probably would be.
Because it's like, what are we saying? We're saying it's 30 years between Return of the Jedi and
Right.
and The Force Awakens, right?
Right. And you figure Ray is what was she like 20 maybe? Is that
Yeah,
what it's supposed to be?
I would
So
say.
so
So
for
if and
yeah,
Bad Batch occurs, how long before uh uh
A New Hope.
A New Hope?
Now
Is
that
it
I don't
like,
know because I want to say it might be a good. Well, when we first started, it was probably 20 years before New Hope, right? Because isn't that how? Because remember that the very didn't they?
I don't know. We
Didn't
have to
they
go. I have to go back and
yeah,
check.
I have to look at it, right? But it wasn't. Which one was it that had basically it mirrored? Maybe I'm thinking of the last Clone Wars ones. That's where the I'm sorry. That I'm thinking of the where they mirrored the when did they do where they actually animated sequences of Revenge of the Sith and they had it in their cut and they showed Ahsoka going down with the Star Destroyer and all that. What was that? When was that part of? That wasn't was that the final season of Clone Wars? No, that was
Yes, yes, it was.
it
Wasn't it?
was.
I think so.
I
That
think
extra series. Yeah, that
yes,
6 episode.
That's right. Yeah, that's
Um,
right.
So but like Bad Batch at the very beginning, it begins with them hunting um the guy from Rebels, which is
Kanan's and his
Kanan.
master. Right.
That's how it
That's right.
begins.
That's right.
And
So
that's
right, essentially during Order 66, right?
all right. And Order 66 is what, 20 years before
Roughly 20 years before New Hope.
A New Hope. So all right, so somewhere Bad Batch is somewhere between say 5 and 10 years before A New Hope. I'm getting where we're at now.
Yeah, where we're at now. Okay, so say that, right?
All right, so if Omega is what? How old do you think she is right now?
Say she's 10, just to make it a round number, maybe. You think
All right, so if she's 10 now, at the end of Return of the Jedi, she's
so 10 more years.
She's like 20.
2023, maybe, right? Like something like that.
So, if you do, like, I don't know. I mean, if you do the math, she could be in her 30s sometime after Return of the Jedi.
Right.
Which you could have had a child.
Yeah.
And have her be 20 years old by the time The Force Awakens begins.
Right. Yes. But but now I know there is there is a book out there that goes into more detail about Rey's parents.
Okay.
And and we know her dad is the Palpatine failed clone, whatever he is, and her mom does have a name and I can't remember it. So unless they're going to sort of tweak that and try to make
right. Well, we've seen them do that. Like the books,
true.
They're supposed to all be canon, but we've seen them say, well, like, I've got a better story, so that's what we're going with.
And they'll finesse things like that. So yeah, It's a possibility that way.
So I don't know. It's just a thought. Like I don't know that Omega ends up being Rey's mom,
right?
But I really get it. I really get the feeling that somehow Omega is tied to Rey in some fashion.
That would be, if they can make it work, I think that'd be very cool.
Yeah.
That'd be another a nice connection type of thing. And that,
right.
what I mean? So,
and would also help fill in some of the some of the holes that the sequel left.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was just my thought.
Yeah, no, I could see that. Yeah, I'd be curious to see. I mean, because at the end of the thing, Omega's surviving. You know what I mean? Like she.
Oh yeah, Omega will survive. Right.
Right. No matter what happens to everybody else, she'll survive. So yeah, so there's got to be some sort of plan for her.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I mean, even if something. I mean, I can't see them. I can't see them killing off all the clones. Like,
no.
Like some of them are still going to survive. I think they maybe at one point said that Rex survives until Return of the Jedi. Like, I know there's like in Return of the Jedi, there's like the one rebel guy that has like the gray beard and stuff. And like, he had a name long before Rex was created, that character. But I know that they've kind of kidded around. They're like, oh yeah, maybe that's Rex,
I thought they said officially that was him.
As far as I know, they didn't. As far as they've hinted around, but they never have officially said it. But I think at the end of Rebels, somebody who was doing the voiceover at the end of Rebels, is it Sabine or whatever? But I think she said that Rex goes on with Hera to fight it, like the Battle of Endor or something like that.
Right.
So like you're like, all right, so Rex is still out there somewhere.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming maybe maybe that'll be the next. Maybe the next series will be more about Omega and the I don't know, the clone.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. It'll be
maybe Omega gets tied to Grogu in some fashion. Like I can see them doing doing these connections.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at the very, very least, it's like if you have Rey's genetic material and Rey's father, if you have Omega's genetic material and that leads to somehow their creation of Rey's father, there's a tie right there. You know what I mean? Like, maybe okay, maybe biologically they're not connected, obviously, but maybe it's like okay, we're we used Omega's DNA or M count to help
Right.
and then Ray's father. Okay, yeah, he's a clone, but he's not nearly strong enough to hold the Emperor's will or the
Right.
I mean,
Right.
like, yeah, and then that would explain why then he's Grogu and all that stuff. Well, it could be something like that, maybe.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah,
So,
I don't know. It's
interesting.
kind of
They could go a lot of places. I just like it's and I don't know. I like that they're. I really like how they're doing this season in particular. I mean, I really
yeah,
liked the first season. Second season was okay. Okay.
yeah,
This
yeah,
season I really like. I like the Mount Tantus
yeah,
story. I like that they've got these this you know like brainwashed contingent of clones running around that are like
right.
expert killers. Um, oh, is that got anything to do with Merrick, by the way? Or am I
Who's Merrick?
remember Merrick was it in Soka? Yeah. That character that everybody's like, oh, the guy with the mask, he's gonna be this guy. And then he just died.
Right.
Is he like one of these clones?
I don't think so. Because remember when they killed him, he got who killed him? Shin killed him?
I
No, who killed
forget.
him?
I don't remember.
But remember when they killed him, it was like a big like all this like green magic came
Oh,
out.
right.
So yeah,
Okay.
he was somehow tied in with the Night Sisters. I'm not sure how.
Okay, you're right.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah, I keep waiting for the mystery, like I forgot what they actually call them, the X clones or whatever these clones are that are the assassins basically. Like, is that guy gonna be like Tech under there, or is it gonna be like
oh yeah,
or is it gonna be like Cody? Because remember he left, but we never know what happened to him yet. I was waiting
oh,
for it to be
it's gonna
somebody.
be Tech. Tech is coming back. I am convinced Tech is
I
coming
mean,
back.
I'm almost positive he is. I mean, it wouldn't bother me if he didn't because I really liked how he died. But just the way the show's set up, I'm like, no, he's got to be. The fact that they showed his goggles, I'm like, okay,
Yes,
yeah,
that's it. That is how he's coming back. You're right.
that's. I thought I'm not 100%, but I was thinking that when I'm like, oh, this is going to be Tech because they made a reference to, like the crosshairs. They tried to brainwash crosshairs, but it didn't take.
Didn't take right.
He's defective. So then I'm like, well, is that trying to throw you off the scent of it being Tech, or maybe I don't know. I'm not sure.
Because because that guy that Crosshair was fighting goes over the waterfall in the last episode, and then he crawls out.
Right.
I'll bet it's
Yeah.
Tech. You're
right.
right.
And we never see him. Right.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think you're right.
I don't know. I was thinking that, but I'm not sure. We'll see.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would bet on that. I would. I think you're right.
That'd be pretty cool. That'd be a pretty cool reveal.
You see, I'm sure. Like, I was like, there's no way he's dead.
Right.
They're bringing him back.
Yeah.
And they keep showing it.
Right.
Like, I'm like, he's coming back.
They want you to remember that. So
yeah,
I mean, he's got to come back, but yeah, it would make sense. Yeah, especially now that they've escaped the Tannis and all that. Like, they got to run into him in the wild somewhere, like you would figure.
Oh yeah. That is great. I hadn't thought of that. I'm kidding. Now that's my theory.
Okay.
All right. All right. So, but do you have anything else for Bad Batch? You want to move on?
No. Yeah, we might as well move on to the Acolyte, right?
Yeah, it was the so that trailer just dropped today.
Yeah.
And I wanted to put this up there because that's really cool. I like that picture a lot. If
Yes.
you're watching the YouTube video, I really like this picture. I think that was the teaser that came out the day before they announced the trailer.
Yeah. So, I don't know twofold. I don't necessarily know what the show is about per se. I mean, obviously it takes place during the High Republic.
Yeah.
The Jedi are at the top of their game. They're training younglings. I mean, I think this is back before the Jedi were truly, like, when we meet them in the Phantom Menace, they've already been corrupted, so to speak.
Oh, so all right. Yes. Let me go back to this trailer. Is that okay? It's not the same. Okay, so I saw that when I was watching the trailer today, and I thought that was the gate that's what's the planet that Rey is on?
Oh, Jakku.
Jakku. When I first saw it, it sort of looked like the gate from Jakku, but I don't think that's it. It's not big enough.
Yeah, I can see why you thought it was the. I can see why I thought it was the bridge, but I don't think it's. Like I think it's big enough.
Right.
Definitely the same design aesthetic.
Yeah, but it was like all these scenes on that planet sort of look Jakku like to me. That's why I was kind of like, but yeah, when I stopped the video, it's not big enough. Like the thing in Jakku was bigger. It looked like.
Yeah, because at one point the Falcon crashes into it, right?
Oh, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So, I was saying for this though. So, just in terms of the show in general, I thought initially it was going to be the tale of a like a Sith acolyte I thought that was the gist of it. But after watching this, I'm not quite sure if it's going to be Sith related or if like these other there's like this other woman in here. I read on the Star Wars data bank, they had some brief synopsis of certain characters, and there's one character towards the end. She's got a lot of like bejeweled on her head.
Yeah.
She's apparently described as a witch.
Oh, really?
And yeah. So then I'm like, oh, is she like I guess maybe. Yeah, I'm not sure. So I'm like, I don't know if it's going to be the witches of Dathomir.
Interesting.
I just ended up watching the trailer. But anyway, my point is I'm not quite sure what to make of this. Like, I'm not sure what I don't know what the show is going to be truly about. Like this girl here in the very beginning of the trailer, or they just showed them that's still there. Like she's masked and she's like some kind of bad guy because they show her fighting Jedi. So I'm not quite sure, not quite sure what the show is going to be about. Like, obviously, like I was saying, it's going to be about the Jedi during the High Republic, but I don't quite, don't quite know yet exactly what it's going to be about.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, I mean, the trailer, I was sort of, I had kind of, not that I was indifferent towards it, but I was kind of like, Acolyte. I wasn't super excited about it. Trailer makes it look really good. Now that's the job of a trailer.
Yeah.
But but it does look really good. It looks kind of exciting. I don't like you. I don't really know what to think. I mean, I like. It almost seems like a mystery.
Yeah,
like they're trying to solve, which I kind of like.
Yes. I think it'll be. I think it'll be I'm glad you said that about the mystery, because I did read that somewhere else today, that you basically like the Jedi, they're at the height of their power, and then something happens, whether it's the witches or something comes up like that, and it's like, well, what's going on here? And it becomes like a mystery, and I like that idea, and then during the voiceover they have somebody saying something like, you're it's I don't know what character it is, but it's a woman, and she says something like, you're controlling who can use the power, or something like it put a neat wrinkle on, like, whereas like, you think the Jedi is being all heroic, but they also are the ones saying like, this is how you're supposed to use the Force, and it kind of gave a different wrinkle to maybe, if someone wants to use the Force differently, are they immediately labeled, a villain or a bad guy? I'm not quite sure where they're going with it. So, like,
is this where we start to see the Jedi go wrong? Right? Because I think what we've seen in the prequels, they were already on the wrong path.
Right.
And like maybe this is where they start down that. This is maybe we'll start to see how they got to where they were in the prequels.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think I can't remember I forget the woman that's the showrunner. I forget her name, but I did read a little article with her today, and she said something referencing like, basically, yes, this is sort of going to be like, she said like, well, we meet the Jedi in the Phantom Menace, and they've already become very what do you call it? Like they've already been, I don't want to say corrupted, but they've already they've already gone down this path. And so this is very much going to be like, they're at the height of their power, so to speak. And then it's like, well, what happens? What makes them start to kind of lose their way?
Yeah.
So I think it could be interesting to see, and I think it'll be a lot of fun though, because it's like, I mean, everybody likes Jedi, and if they're if they're at the height of their power, and it's like, it's going to kind of be like what everybody wanted to see in the Phantom Menace that we didn't get to see. You know what I mean?
Well, that's what I was just about to say. Is like, I remember us having the conversation when the prequels were coming out. We're like, "Oh, this is going to be so cool because the Jedi are going to be so at the height of the power." And what we find out is that no, they were sort of like they were, and that's why we were. I think that's one of the reasons I was always disappointed in those movies, is because like I never envisioned the Jedi like sitting around in the condo in downtown Coruscant,
right,
like hanging around, like just talking
right.
about like politics. I was like, that was not how I envisioned the Jedi. But I think we may be getting that here. Like we may be getting what we wanted then here.
Right. Yeah. So I think I mean, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be great. Hopefully they can pull it off. I mean, I don't want to overhype it, but it seems to have a lot of, it's a clean slate. It's a part of the. I mean, there have been books and stuff going on in this part of the timeline for a little while now, but perfectly honest, I don't know much about it. I read a couple comics, maybe, but like that stuff never grabbed me. But in terms of a TV show, I'll certainly watch it, and I'm looking forward to it just to see. Looking forward to seeing, enjoying the show, but also again how it connects to the larger universe. If this can tie in with the the Jedi and stuff, like, and how they fell, that's great.
Yeah, and it might be fun to get a Star Wars movie where they're not like the enemy here. I mean, I think ultimately the enemy is going to be the Sith, but like that may not be who they're dealing with initially.
Yeah.
Because we may see the birth of the Sith at a later date, but like the enemy here may not be the Sith, and it's certainly not the Empire. So it'll be interesting to see a Star Wars movie where that's not the bad guy.
Right.
I mean, I know in the sequels it was the First Order, but they were basically the Empire.
Yeah.
And
right.
And the same.
Yeah.
So
no, I agree with you. I read somewhere. I don't know enough about the Old Republic or the High Republic and all that, but like before Darth Maul shows up, like before the Sith, or before the Phantom Menace, I feel like there's like somebody says like we haven't seen the Sith in like 100 years or 1,000 years, or I feel like there's like a hard like date for that. So I know some people were concerned with this show. They're like, how are they going to get around and for lack of a better word, I'm going to say 100 years, but how are they going to get around the 100-year mark for the Sith? Like they were worried that it was going to somehow, impact canon, because if the Sith are the bad guys here, it's going to be like, no, that breaks canon, which I think Qui-Gon says it in the movie, doesn't he? Say
something like that. Yeah, I know. I think it's when they talk to Mace the first time.
Yeah, like after they fought Darth Maul the first time, I think he says something. So I don't know if he said 100 years or 1,000 years. I can't remember what he said. So maybe the Sith aren't involved in this at all. Maybe it's going to be this like these witches, or a different sect, or maybe it's a different sect of like
right, or maybe they're trying to like awaken whatever that is. Like trying to
Oh, like
you know what I'm saying? Like maybe try to bring back maybe that's what they're whoever if it's the witches of Dathomir, maybe that's what their whole thing is. Maybe they're trying to bring back the Sith, and that's what their objective is. But I get like I'm excited about this. I mean, I know this project was coming up. I was sort of like, I don't know how I feel about the Old Republic stuff, and I mean, I was always gonna watch it, but I wasn't super excited about it. But I'll tell you, the trailer makes it look pretty good. Looks like a lot of action. It looks, like I always like a good mystery. If that's what's going on.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, I'm excited for it. I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I think it'll be, like you said, it'll be nice to see. It's a fresh, fresh time period, fresh characters. Yes, there's some history there, but it's like a very unexplored area. So I think it could be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I like, and I mean, have they said, is anybody we know showing up in this thing, or is it like, is this pre Yoda and everything?
Now that I just read a thing. Yoda technically is alive here, and I think this takes place. I think this might be like 100 years before the original Star Wars.
Okay.
So Yoda's definitely around. He's he's active and he's doing all those things. I don't know necessarily, like the thing I read, someone's like, I don't know if he'll necessarily be a main character because I think they would have shown him if he was, but
Yeah.
they'll probably use him like they sort of have been using the Emperor in Bad Batch, where he might show up every now and then as like, when he does show up, it's important,
Yeah, right, right, right.
the Emperor's made a few cameos. It's important. So I think maybe Yoda might be more like that way, like, oh, here's Master Yoda, what's he got to say type of thing.
Yeah.
And I think it'd probably be beneficial to use them that way because, I don't necessarily, I don't think I want Yoda to be the main character. I don't think.
No, right, right. Like I kind of like the idea that this is its own thing, and I like, I kind of like, it might be cool if they reference people we know or something like that, but like I kind of like the idea of it just sort of being on its own and it doing its own thing and having its own heroes.
Yeah, yeah, right. I mean, I would love to see, maybe, or reference Yoda or have him show up at one point, but impart some, wisdom and be on his
Right.
way type of thing. But meanwhile, our core group of heroes are sort of doing their thing, like let them
Right.
do their, have their adventure. The one character, and I don't even know if we see her in the trailer, is apparently from the High Republic books, and when the books are taking place, she's young, and by this time period, she's older. And I can't remember her name. I think she's bald and has like some sort of tattooing on her head or something like that.
Okay. It's not her.
No, it's not Carrie. What's her name? Carrie Ann Moss. Is that
I
her?
think
She's
so.
from the
Matrix.
movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, is not her. I'm going on. There's on the Star Wars website. There's the data bank had some characters in there. And that's when I saw that, I read that like they referenced her being from the High Republic, and I think they mentioned the books or something.
Okay.
So, but she's the only other one, and I was a little bit disappointed with that because I'm like, oh, well, okay. Oh, that was that one there. She was just walking in there. You saw her. She had a cloak over, but you could tell that she had a bald head.
Okay.
But she's the only one, and I mean, I'm guessing you don't need to know much about her if you know what I mean. If they'll fill you in terms of the show, because if you read the books, you might get more out of it, I guess. But if you're
they're not assuming. Yeah, they're not assuming you're reading the books.
Yeah. So,
and I like the yellow lightsabers. We get some yellow lightsabers.
I didn't realize that. I mean, I'm colorblind, and I did not realize that we got yellow lightsabers until I was reading about it afterwards. I saw someone like, "Oh my god, we got a yellow lightsaber!" I'm like, "What? What are you talking about?" So I didn't realize it was. Which one's yellow? Is it all of them or just one of them?
No, it's just there was like in that group when they at that last thing when they charge with the lightsabers, a couple of them are yellow.
Oh, okay.
So there's like blue and green and
yellow
and yellow in there. Yeah.
Are there any purple ones? Because
there were no purple. It was just it was just three colors.
When I was reading the data bank, one of the characters has a purple one too. I read, so I guess they're going to start introducing some more colors and stuff, which is fun. I mean, I know Ray had the yellow one, which is pretty cool too.
Yeah. Well, I liked at the end of the trailer when they look and they're like, "What is that?" And it's like the yellow. It's like the red lightsaber. So they probably have not seen a red lightsaber.
God,
so I thought that was pretty cool.
That's true. I didn't think about that. That's right. That's cool. Yeah. So anyway, I think it's pretty cool. I mean, it looks like Disney's promoting the crap out of it. I mean, yes, I'm the target audience, but I got all kinds of stuff today. I mean, I got but all kinds of ads and all kinds of stuff. So they really are coming out full force in it. So
they really are. It's I do think they're making an effort to have this stuff make an impact. now.
Yes.
I think they've gotten away from that, but now they're really pushing it. And yeah, and I think this looks good. I mean, I really do. So I'm down for it. It's June. I don't know if I'm sure we have an exact date, but I don't have it off the
I
top
want
of
to
my
say
head.
I think it's June 4th.
Okay, so I wonder if is Bad Batch.
I think
Oh,
Bad
it says
Batch.
right here, June 4th. Okay, so Bad
Okay.
Batch will probably just be ending.
Yeah. I think we'll make it a week or two off and then
Yeah.
because Bad Batch ends, I think, the beginning of May.
Yeah, it's sometime in May. It's Bad Batch is a long season.
Yeah, yeah.
I
So
forget how many episodes, but there were a lot of episodes.
yeah, like well, if we're halfway, what do we say? No, there's what, 6 episodes we've seen so far? It's probably more than 12 though, right? It would have to be.
I think so. I think it was like 15 or 16, something like that.
I thought
Because
so
remember,
too.
there's more that, like there was a double episode the first week. We
Right.
just
Now
had
this,
another double episode.
I
I think
feel like
there's
there's,
one week with three episodes,
oh geez, okay.
and then the finale is probably 2 episodes. So
Yeah, yeah.
there's a bunch of
Yeah.
a
Well,
story there.
I was saying we were halfway through. I read that. I thought I read that somewhere, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's more than, maybe we aren't halfway. Maybe there's more.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we
So
still have, we have the rest of March, April, and May.
yeah, it ends in May. I know that.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah, so they've got
yeah,
they've got a lot of story to tell. That's why I think this is going somewhere. I don't
yeah,
think it's certainly not going to wrap up. I don't think it's going to
yeah.
wrap up like totally. I think this is going somewhere, and they're going to take it.
Yeah, I would think so too. I mean, yeah, because if they were going to do something totally different, I feel like we would had, like, I feel like they're going to surprise us with, Bad Batch is going to wrap up. We're going to have May the 4th in there somewhere. I feel like they're going to announce like, oh, here's our new show. Here's a new
Right, right,
cartoon.
right, right, right.
I mean, I imagine the cartoons are successful for them. I mean, they've done, they did Bad Batch. I mean, they did Rebels, they did Bad Batch. They were doing that other Tales of the Jedi, which, were the shorts and stuff like that. So I can't imagine they would get, not doing any more
Yeah.
cartoons. It seems silly.
I'll tell you, I'm really impressed by the animation in Bad Batch. I mean,
Yeah.
it's. I mean, we've seen. I never loved the animation of the Clone Wars. It got better. It certainly got better as it got older. Like it was, but towards the end, it was really good. I never liked the animation in Rebels.
That always felt a little.
Yeah, but this is
This
like.
this looks nice. Like this,
I mean, the space scenes, look like they could be in a film.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, they're that good. Like the ships and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, that stuff always looks great. It's like really amazing how they can
Yeah.
do, how far everything's come. I know it is funny because Clone Wars, for what it was good, but I never liked, like, the character design was very,
Yeah.
how they're all chiseled and stuff. I didn't care for that. Rebels, I always felt like was done like on a budget. Like
Yes.
it was, the animation was okay, but like I remember there was like a lot of like a lot of the places they went were like barren landscapes, and you're like, well, I know why you're in the middle of this. I know why this is where the base is, because there's not, there's no
Yeah.
money to animate everything. Whereas I never get that impression with Bad Batch. I feel like if they have to go somewhere, they go somewhere. Like there's, what I
Yeah.
mean? Like there's always feels like there's always money for the animation, which is great. And it
Well,
looks,
Yeah. Well, I mean, and it's not for nothing. Like, Lucas was paying for Clone Wars, and
Right.
he was willing to put money into it. And then when Disney
Yeah.
came along, they were like, "No, we're not spending that much money on an animated show."
Right.
And that's why it ended. And then the next animated show was Rebels, and it was clearly not, it was clearly not the quality of Clone Wars.
Right. Right.
And and I think they've seen, like, like, I think Filoni's probably told them, like, look, you get out of it what you put into it, and if it's quality, like, people are going to watch it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and yeah, I think it's been, I'm really impressed by this season. Really impressed by this season.
Yeah, I hope that. I mean, I'd love to see. Now I hadn't really gotten that far in my head, but I'm now, you got me thinking. I'm like, what is next? What what is, I'd love to know where they're going to go next. I mean, you'd hate to see them. Yeah, I'd hate to see them. I would hate to see them just drop this time period, because it's very interesting, with
Yeah,
the clones and with the rebellion forming and all that stuff. It would be, and if they can do it in such a way where right there follow, you say it's Omega, you follow her, but then you see all this other stuff going on at the same time, the world building and the how
yeah,
things pan out.
yeah. It's really, really doing a nice job.
Yeah.
Definitely. Um, I, I think this is. Do you have anything else for Acolyte? I think that's the last thing we
No, that's
have.
it. Yep.
Um, yeah, I guess we should mention the. Did you see the stuff about Patty Jenkins? I guess that Rogue Squadron
Oh,
movie is back on. I just remembered
I
that as we were talking.
yeah, I saw that. I don't think we got an official announcement from Lucasfilm, but I think she's the one that said it. So I guess it's back on.
Okay.
Sounds like it's back in development. So maybe I mean, we assumed it was just part of, at the time, Lucasfilm being Lucasfilm, just, canceling things willy-nilly. But, I guess they just put it on pause until they got their bearings. Like, I will say that it does feel like they actually have like a plan now. Like, they're going to do Ray's movie, they're going to do Filoni's movie with, Heir to the Empire and the Mando and all that stuff, and then they're going to go back and do the Dawn of the Jedi, which
Yeah.
is James Mangold's movie he did Indy. And now they have, the TV show for The Acolyte coming in there, and they have. So I mean, it feels like they have a pretty full plate here going on, but I don't know what it is, but it just feels like they finally have like there's a direction, or there's, I mean, it feels like there's
Yeah.
a bit of a direction or a mission type of thing. Whereas now, if they come out, when they first announced Rogue Squadron, I was very much like, what is this? Like, I knew what it was, but I mean, like, where does this take place? What does this mean? Like, whereas now, if it rolls it out, I feel like there's enough tent poles along the way of the
Yeah.
timeline. So now you're like, oh, this is where it is. Okay. You're like,
Yeah.
like it's not as, I don't know, it's not as willy nilly. Like it felt like when it first was announced, it was just willy, like, they're like, oh, we're
Yeah.
going to do a show here. And you're like, huh?
Yeah.
So,
And I wonder if because what we had heard is that this is sort of like Top Gun with X-wings, right? Like, I mean, that's kind of what
that's
we
what,
heard.
yeah.
What we heard, and I wonder if the success of Top Gun last summer didn't have something to do with this getting revived. Be like, hey, we could, that did really well. If we did that in the Star Wars universe, maybe we could really make this work.
Right? Maybe right. Maybe it was a matter of right, like, oh, let's retool this. Let's give it a rest and think about it some more. It could have been as easy as that.
Right.
No.
I mean, Top Gun is getting another movie. It sounds like. Because that movie did so well.
Yeah.
So
I know. And I mean, I did read something with Patty Jenkins. Like, apparently she initially was like supposed to do Wonder Woman 3, but then that got canceled, obviously. And then, so I don't know if that was interfering with the Rogue Squadron. I don't know why they initially said they pulled the plug on it. Like, I'm not sure what happened, but like, it was, during that phase where the Lucasfilm was just announcing. I mean, all of Disney, everybody was announcing everything under the sun, and it's like, nothing. Especially, I feel like, especially Lucasfilm, like nothing was coming true. They were just announcing stuff left and right, and you're like, huh? Yeah.
It sounded to me like Patty Jenkins walked away. That's what it sounded like to me.
Okay.
That she was like that. She had a vision, and then, or whatever the initial vision of whatever it was she came up with was that that Lucasfilm had come along and was like wanted to change it a lot, and she didn't like that, and then she was like, well, I'm out then. That's what it sounded like to me. But
that could be,
I don't know, because it does sound like they're maybe, I don't know, it's because it sounds like they're very involved, like, or they, and maybe, and I would like to say, well, maybe there were too involved, but then, The Last Jedi happened, and they were pretty hands off there, and maybe that didn't work out so well. So maybe that's why they're real hands on now. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know, because it's like, like you said, they were. I mean, the sequel trilogy was a bit of a mess, like, I mean, and like you would assume they would have been super involved in all of that, but then you come to find out maybe they weren't. I don't know, you
Yeah.
know, and that, but then by the time, right, then The Last Jedi happened, which was a very divisive, is just the best way to say it. And I mean, then like, they ended up firing Colin Trevorrow from with the Duel of the Fates, which turned into the Rise of
Right.
Skywalker,
Right.
and then the fiasco with Solo happened. I mean, she ended up firing those guys, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know. And maybe that was it. Maybe now that they feel like they have a couple tentpole movies in terms of holding up the timeline, like I was saying, maybe now they're like, oh, if you want to come in and do your movie, yes, you can come do that now.
Yeah.
Maybe they've learned their lesson to be a little bit more, it's like, all right, behind the scenes, it's like, these are important movies. These are going to support Star Wars, but then here's littler movies that can
Yeah.
also, yes, you can come in and tell a Star Wars story and it doesn't impact anything, but if it takes off, or, if you have good, strong characters, then maybe we'll run with it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
Right.
maybe it's a way to say like, all right, these movies are important. These other movies, not that they're not important, but not so much, but it's a way to try something new. It's like
Yeah.
building.
Right. Right.
So
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah, that'd be interesting to see. Um, I'm still curious where the Rogue Squadron, where it would take place. Would it be during the original trilogy? Because that's where like Wedge had Rogue Squadron, and like there's all kinds of books and comics, and there's all kinds of stuff. That's a huge fan base. So they do it there, or were they thinking more during the
I
sequel?
I thought they were saying sequel trilogy, which I didn't
Uh,
love, but I
yeah,
think that's I think that's where they were headed with it, or at
that's
least
what I
initially. Maybe it's changed,
maybe.
but
Yeah,
I think that was because I was like, oh well, I don't care about that as much because I don't really know any of
right.
this pilots.
Yeah, like So I mean, I did read the Poe Dameron comics, and he had like I can't remember the name of I don't think it was Rogue Squadron though, but I can't remember the name. But there were some comics which they were fun, I mean, but it wasn't anything that I needed a movie of.
Yeah.
So I would imagine it'd be your own thing and their own characters, but I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see where it all lands, how it all pans out. But it's nice to see that something's coming back, I guess.
Yeah. It would be nice to see a Star Wars movie again, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
So I don't know.
I guess I think the Ray movie is supposed to start shooting in April, so that I think that'll be the first one we get. I could be wrong, but I think that'll be
Okay.
the first one. And I don't know when the Mandalorian and Grogu is supposed to start, but I think that's sooner than later as well. So, I mean, we got
I don't know.
two.
I'm sure they'll get me all interested in it, but the Ray movie just doesn't excite me at all. It really
Oh,
doesn't.
really? Oh, that's a
Yeah.
shame. Yeah, I'm interested in it
But
because
I said the same about The Acolyte, right?
oh,
And then they
true,
came
right?
out with
Yeah,
the trailer, and now I'm like, all right, let's go check that out.
yeah.
But
I'm more interested in the Ray movie just to see how they push forward in the universe. I want to see like, I want to see like, all right, well, all right, let's see, like, all right, let's see, does Ray start doing the Jedi? Let's see how that looks.
yeah,
I'm a little bit concerned that like they haven't announced John Boyega's coming back. So I'm like, out of anybody, I'm like, well, Ray and Finn, they should be in a movie together because
yeah,
I don't care about Poe as much. I mean, he's doing something else. You know what I mean? But like, I
yeah.
feel like those guys and the Jedi and all that, I'm interested in where that would go and how they're going to do that. And hopefully they can come up with something a little bit different and unique and not just what Luke's story was from the expanded universe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we'll have to see how that works out.
And like, where do they go? Like, who's the enemy? Like, what if the First Order's defeated now and the Emperor's defeated? Like, what's out there?
Right. What else
What's
is right?
next?
I mean,
Like that's
yeah.
kind of interesting.
Right. I mean, there's some different characters from the old expanded universe they could come up with. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that you could try to do, but it's a matter of making it work. And like I don't know. I know
You could get rid of the rule of two, which I always hated.
yes.
I always thought the rule of two was a bad
I mean,
bad story.
yeah, it's I mean, but right, all of a sudden, that there you go, the Sith are back.
Yeah,
Although that'd be kind of lame after the whole thing with Palpatine,
yeah,
all the Sith acolytes and all that stuff. But maybe they're not. They tried to. I feel like they tried to do that a little bit at the beginning of with the Force Awakens, because remember they never said that they never said that Kylo Ren was like a Sith Lord or anything like that. They had
Right.
him, and so I'm like, they kind of toyed around with it there, and then I feel like they just forgot it. They did away with it. But it's like you could always do something like that, like kind of like even the Acolyte here. We're not sure if the witches are Sith or if they're going to be something different. So maybe it could be something like that, like these other dark side users turn up, but they're not Sith. They're somebody different.
Yeah. Right. Right.
You know, or I mean, in the books they've had like they had some, I forget what they were called. The aliens came from like outside the galaxy and came in and started attacking. They were like super strong, and they were the bad guys. And there's different things you can do.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. It's interesting to think about Star Wars post, Empire. Like what do they, or First Order? Like what do you do then? Like when you don't
Right.
have this military,
Right. Yeah. Right.
complex.
Then it's like, all right, well then, I mean, I would probably lean into like, it's like, all right, well, Rey, and she's going to train a new Jedi. But what does that look like? And how is it different? And how can we make it different from the stories we've already told with Luke? And,
Yeah.
and then who are the bad guys going to be? Are they Force users, or is it another military force? Is it something different? Like there's a lot of different ways you could go. I'll be curious to see what they do.
Yeah. Interesting stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
All right.
but I'm glad. I mean, it seems like between Marvel and Star Wars, seems like they're kind of getting things back in order here a little bit, and hopefully, push ahead.
I hope so. I hope so.
Yeah.
I really hope Disney gets back on track, because I mean they were on. It's crazy, like the year of Avengers, the Infinity War and
Oh,
Endgame.
right. Yeah. Yeah.
They had all the money, right? Like they were
Mhm.
making, how many movies did they have that year that like
Oh, it
were
was
over
great.
$1 billion? Like it was crazy. Like they were crazy.
Yeah.
And now it's like they can't buy a hit, man.
No.
It's like their animated stuff isn't doing well, and their
I mean,
Marvel stuff isn't doing well, and Star
I
Wars
think
isn't doing well.
I think a lot of it is just from the pandemic, and just people realizing that they don't necessarily need to go to the movie theater. Like the movie theater, I do like going to the movies, and I like to do it like, especially with like we go out and it's like
Yeah,
an event. We kind of have fun, and it gives us a reason to get out of the house. But like, I think a lot of people are just like, unless something's like really, really, lighting you on fire, I think they're like, I'll wait a couple of months and and I'll sit on my couch and watch it. And I think
yeah,
that's where a lot of the stuff is now, where it's like, I don't, you're like, I don't know if I need to see this in the theater. I mean, you know, all the DC movies that have come out the past couple of years, I'm just like, I'll watch it on HBO.
yeah,
I just watched the new Aquaman the other night. I'm glad I didn't see it in the movie theater.
yeah,
But it's like that sort of thing where I think a lot of people are like, especially if it's not like an Avengers movie, or like now there's like there for a while there's so much Marvel stuff, and half of it you were watching on your TV because it's a TV show.
yeah,
So inadvertently Disney kind of trained people like, oh, you can watch this stuff at home now. You don't have to go to the movie theater.
yeah,
And even with the Pixar stuff, they were putting that on Disney for free, which on Disney Plus for free during the pandemic, which was wonderful for people that were trapped at home and all that stuff. But again, people I think they began to expect it like, oh, well, they'll just put this on Disney Plus,
yeah. I think you got to make movies an event. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? You got to make it like you got to make it an experience, and I think that's why you got to make an experience you can't get at home. So
Right.
so you got to I thought like that's why like for a while now they've moved away from that, but I like the idea like when they were doing like 3D movies, because it's
Yeah.
like that's an experience you can only get at the theater. So you
Right.
have to, like, if you want that experience, you've got to go to the theater.
Yeah. I think that's what
And
made the first
right,
Avatar so special.
right, and
Yeah.
the second, and that's why I went to see the second
Right.
Avatar
Yeah.
movie.
Right.
That's the only reason I went to see the second Avatar movie, because I was
Yeah.
like, well, if I go to the theater, I could see it the way it was designed to be seen.
Right.
And
Yeah.
but I don't know what that costs. I don't know how much. I mean, we know that James Cameron spares no expense when he
Oh,
makes his films. And it paid off for him. But like, you can't make every film like that, I guess. So,
Right.
but I don't know. They got to figure out a way to make going to the movies an event again. I don't know how. I don't know what you do, but I think that's what's gotta.
Yeah.
Because it's you're right. Like I'm like, oh, I'll just wait for it. Because it's and enough for nothing. It's not cheap going to a movie. Like
Well, right.
family for like the four of us go to a film, and I mean you're looking at $60 just for tickets,
Right.
and then you get popcorn and all that. So I mean it's like $100 to go out for the night.
Yeah. Right. And you're like, well, in 3 months it'll be on my streaming service.
Right.
And it won't
And
cost
I'm already paying for that.
And I'm right. I'm already paying for it. We have popcorn at home.
Right. So
I
it's tough. But,
yeah. Well, I think that as they get more selective with the movies they're making and definitely tone down the content in terms of, make it more special and stuff like that. And, I mean, hopefully, that like I said, give people a reason like, oh, we got to go see this. We got to get out, got to go see this and got to see what happens on the big screen.
Yeah. And I do hope, like I do hope they start making like I want to see more like, and I know I say this, but then they put movies out and then nobody goes to see them. But like I think they need some. It is getting stale. All these, and I love this stuff. You and I both the Marvel stuff and the Star Wars, and and they're bringing back Top Gun, and I went and I was thrilled about that. But like, at some point, you got to make something new. Like you got to do something new. Like there's nothing new out there, and it's. I think people are just tired of like.
Yeah, I feel like everyone for a while there was like, oh, superhero fatigue, but it's really like franchise fatigue to a certain extent. Because you're like, oh, I mean, even with Ghostbusters, it's like, oh, they're doing another Ghostbusters. This looks good. Like to me and you, we're like, oh, this looks good. But how many other people are like another Ghostbusters? Like
yeah, right.
Or like I think a Planet of the Apes movie is coming out this summer, and I went. Yes, because I think it's going to be when they start redoing. I think it's going to be the fourth one. And I was thought about maybe watching the old ones and getting caught up on it. And they're like all dispersed over different streaming services. You can't even watch them right now.
Oh my god,
they're all over the place. But it's even like that. I'm like, oh, another Planet of the Apes movie. Like it's like I haven't even watched it. So it's like it's I don't know how. Like, hey, right? How do you?
And I do, and I think like I would probably watch the Planet of the Apes, but it's sort of like, how many of these do I have to watch now? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I think a lot of people are like that. They're like, I don't feel like if I've got to go back and watch 6 movies, I have no interest in doing that.
And especially for something that's not on my radar. Like I'm aware of the Planet of the Apes, but I'm not a huge fan of them or anything. And so it's like, oh, maybe I should go back. Well, I'm like, they're not numbered. So I'm like, which one's first? Which one do I have to watch? Right. And suddenly then I begin to realize, like, is this what people feel like with like the Marvel movies or like Star Wars?
They probably do.
Where they're just kind of like, especially with like Marvel, you're like, what? How many movies are there? What do I? How much? What do I have to? Was there an order I have to watch them in? Like it's probably gets very just overwhelming, and then enough where you're like,
Yeah, and not to bring it around, but like I think that's why Doctor Who's doing what it's doing, right? Like they're not putting like they have. I don't think BBC has any interest in putting all that old Doctor Who stuff on Disney Plus. They want people to come in and think it's something new.
Yeah, here's something
brand just sit there. You don't have to go back and watch these 50 years of Doctor Who. You can just watch this.
Yeah. Well, and especially with Doctor Who, because there's not a strong, continuity there,
Right. It's like it was always sort of a niche thing. Yeah. So like I know about it, you know about it, but like, average guy who's not a big science fiction fan probably doesn't know anything about Doctor Who and may have heard about it.
Just vaguely aware of it. Right. Yeah.
And he could just pick it up and start from scratch. So I hope that's how it goes. I really hope it does well on Disney Plus. I really do. Yeah. I want it to. I hope it's a big hit for them. So we'll see though.
Well, it seems like they're putting a lot of money into it, so hopefully that'll pay.
It looks good.
Yeah,
it looks good.
So. Yeah.
So,
all right.
Anyway, should we wrap it up?
Yeah, I guess so. We might as well wrap it up for tonight.
All right. Well, I think we got all caught up.
Yep.
Hopefully we don't go like 2 months before next show again. Hopefully you hear from us before that. But but you can so we're gonna wrap up the show tonight, but you can follow us on Facebook. We still have a Twitter account. We don't do much with it, but we have Threads. You can follow us on Instagram. And of course we have the YouTube channel, so you can watch us if you don't feel like just listening. So we'll post it out there. So with that, I guess we'll wrap up the show, and thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you all next time. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone. Thanks for listening.
All right.
All right, good.